Chapter 966 Supreme Source Code Scholar. Zhou opened the information on these talents and professional skills. Profession talent name, Eye of the Supreme Source Code, talent level, Divine Kingdom, rare, talent description, as a scholar who studies the Supreme Source Code, you have a pair of eyes that can see through the essence of everything. Through observation and research, you can gradually understand these Supreme Source Codes and observe and research higher-level Supreme Source Codes. Profession talent name, Call Source Code, Box Novel. Talent level, Divine Kingdom, rare, talent description, as a scholar who studies the Supreme Source Code, you can invoke these Supreme Source Codes, make them work for you, and do some unbelievable things. Profession talent name, Myriad Decomposition, talent level, Divine Kingdom, rare, talent description, as a scholar who studies the Supreme Source Code, you can decompose the substance of the Supreme Source Code at the root level, thereby decomposing it into the basic Supreme Source Code material. Profession skill name, Supreme Source Code, creating basic materials. Skill quality, basic level, skill description, you can collect the basic source code materials you need through the decomposition of everything, and reorganize these basic source code materials to create some basic materials. For example, stone, wood, sand, basic metal, profession skill name, Supreme Source Code, creating basic materials. Skill quality, basic level, skill description, the Supreme Source Code scholar can decompose everything and collect all kinds of Supreme Source Code materials at the required basic level. Then, he can reorganize these types of basic source code materials to create some basic substances. For example, stone, wood, sand, basic metal. Note, most substances are made of more than plural Supreme Source Code materials. If you want to create complicated substances, you need to collect more types of Supreme Source Code from various other substances to create the substance you need. Profession skill name, Supreme Source Code, create black iron tier matter, skill quality, black iron tier, skill description, the scholar of the Supreme Source Code can decompose everything and collect all kinds of Supreme Source Code materials at the black iron tier. Then, he can reorganize these types of black iron tier source code materials to create some black iron tier materials. For example, black iron tier materials, fine iron, black iron tier materials, sand crystal, black iron tier creatures, devil vines, black iron tier creatures, black horned ants. Note, omitted. Profession skill name, Supreme Source Code, creating green bronze tier matter, skill quality, green bronze tier, skill description, a top source code scholar can collect all kinds of green bronze tier source code materials and reorganize these types of green bronze tier source code materials to create some green bronze tier substances. For example, green bronze tier materials, fire steel, green bronze tier materials, energy jade, green bronze tier mist core, green bronze tier creature, ice wing bird. Note, omitted. Profession skill name, Supreme Source Code, create low-tier deity level elementary grade material, skill quality, low-tier deity level elementary grade, skill description, a high-level source code scholar can decompose everything and collect all kinds of high-level source code materials needed for low-level deities. Then, he can reorganize these types of low-level deity source code materials to create some low-level deities. For example, low-tier deity level elementary grade, Thunder Mother Stone, low-tier deity level elementary grade materials, Violet Cloud Divine Thread, low-tier deity level elementary grade divine crystals, low-tier deity level elementary grade divine beast, Wind Splitting Roar. After Zhou read the talent and skill information, he could not help but click his tongue. This Supreme Source Code scholar looked strong. As expected of a Divine Kingdom life profession. He had already reached the ridiculous level of being able to see through the essence of all things and create them. In some small worlds, this was probably a divine ability that other life forms could treat as the god of creation. Moreover, the most ridiculous thing was that normally, only existences at the god spirit realm would begin to dabble in such an ability. As for the Supreme Source Code scholar, he could actually have it at the black iron tier to create some basic materials such as wood, stone, sand, and basic metals. Moreover, every time he increased his strength realm, he could see a higher level of material essence source code composition and create a higher level of material. This profession can be said to be the creation god of the same profession. Zhou Zhou exhaled and thought. He took a closer look at this profession and realized that it wasn't omnipotent. For example, there were still some restrictions on its creation of matter. The first limitation was naturally the limitation of strength. A black iron tier source code scholar could only create black iron tier substances at most. Not only could he not create green bronze tier substances, he could not even see through the composition of the supreme source code at this level. Second, a supreme source code scholar couldn't create the substance he wanted out of thin air. If one wants to create a complex substance through supreme source code, then supreme source code scholars must have all the supreme source code materials needed to create this substance. Without a type of supreme source code source material, he wouldn't be able to properly form the substances he needed. It was equivalent to building a complete model. As long as a component of the model is missing, the model cannot be assembled successfully. As long as a component of the model is missing, the model cannot be assembled successfully. Zhou Zhou could not help but laugh. From the looks of it, this divine kingdom level rare life profession was much easier to understand. Then, he began to try out the talents and abilities of this profession. I'm now a low-tier deity level elementary grade god spirit. I can see through the source code of low-tier deity level elementary grade at best. Zhou Zhou flipped his right hand, and a low-tier deity level elementary grade divine artifact appeared in his hand out of thin air. This low-tier deity level elementary grade divine artifact was a pendant that emitted a tricolored light. It was called the Fallen God Spirit's Prayer. He was created from the pure soul of a low-tier deity level elementary grade god spirit. It had the effect of protecting the soul and resisting soul attacks. At the same time, it also had the effect of nourishing and restoring the soul's origin. Of course, to the current Zhou Zhou, it was naturally useless. With the strength of Zhou Zhou's soul enhanced by various bloodlines, laws, and treasures, only divine artifacts at the true god tier level could enhance his soul. However, even though this divine artifact was useless to him, it was not a problem to use it as a test subject. Zhou Zhou looked at the prayer of the fallen god spirit and activated the eye of the supreme source code. The next second, Zhou Zhou's eyes suddenly turned silver white. Those silver white eyes were indifferent and heartless. They were rational and cold to the extreme, but they also had a different kind of scientific charm. He looked at the low-tier deity level elementary grade divine artifact in his hand. Chapter 967 150 billion refugees. Advancing to low-tier deity level intermediate grade. After a long time, suddenly, a silver rune flashed across the surface of this divine artifact. A silver rune flashed across the surface of this divine artifact. The silver rune that had just flashed slowly appeared before his eyes appeared under his gaze. More silver characters could be vaguely seen around and deeper into the rune. From Zhou Zhou's perspective, some were complicated, some were simple, some were profound, and some were obscure. Each silver character represented a different meaning of the rules, and when they were combined, a new meaning of the rules would be produced. Box novel. Calm, they were like living beings. They had endless creations and were incomparably profound. They had infinite possibilities of change and could even see the beginning and end of the evolution of the universe. If one were to observe from the perspective of a scientific practitioner, they would be shocked to discover that each of these silver characters was a scientific crystal condensed from countless scientific and technological knowledge. They represented the highest level of scientific civilization. And there were at least 10,000 such silver characters on this insignificant low-tier deity level elementary grade divine artifact. This is the supreme source code. Zhou Zhou held his breath. This was definitely the result of a civilization that had developed to the extreme. If someone could bring it to greater heights, they could definitely use it to create a civilization that was not inferior to high-level bloodline races. It could even be a great civilization that stood at the peak of all races, like the original spirit race, the shepherd's god race, and the chaos gods race. Perhaps the end of the Machina race's civilization was the supreme source code. According to the information in the Lord Talent, if he mastered all the supreme source code, he could even reach the heights of the supreme will. Even though so far, no supreme source code scholar could reach that level, it should be trustworthy since it was information provided by the Lord Talent. He observed for a while and discovered something else. This low-tier deity level elementary grade divine artifact wasn't made from the source code of a low-tier deity. Most of the source code materials in him were low-tier deity level elementary grade, but other than that, there were also a small number of legendary tier and lower source code materials, as well as some mid-tier deity level source code materials. Zhou Zhou understood very easily. Creating a low-tier deity level elementary grade divine artifact required a lot of materials. There would definitely be high-grade or low-grade materials among them. In that case, it was normal for the source code to be of different grades. Zhou Zhou activated his next profession ability after reading the supreme source code of this divine artifact. Divine Kingdom Rare Profession Talent, Myriad Decomposition. The next second, the prayer of the fallen god spirit in his hand suddenly turned into an item made of silver source code. It no longer had the aura of a divine artifact, nor could it unleash the effects of any divine artifact. It was simply a silver code material composed of many supreme source codes, and it looked very sci-fi. Zhou Zhou looked at the ball of silver code substance and then gently wiped the divine artifact with his right hand. Tens of thousands of supreme source codes followed his right hand and flew out like a galaxy. Then, they formed a ball of source code that flowed endlessly in his right palm. Zhou Zhou cleared it with his fingers and saw that the source code had been extracted one by one and placed separately at the side. A moment later, more than 2,000 different types of source code were extracted separately. He waved his right hand, and the source code quickly condensed into various divine artifact manufacturing materials. Zhou Zhou sighed inwardly. This myriad decomposition was a little heaven-defying. Just the innate ability of this profession was not inferior to a high-quality Lord Talent. Then, he restored these materials back to the source code and reassembled the low-tier deity-level elementary grade divine artifact, Prayer of the Fallen God Spirit. He tried it and realized that there was no problem with the divine artifact's effects. It was not affected at all because it had restored the source code. When Zhou Zhou saw this, he tried to take out other divine artifacts to restore them. After discovering that there were no problems, he tried to create a series of professional skills from basic materials, black iron tier materials, green bronze tier materials, and other supreme source code scholars. Zhou Zhou nodded in satisfaction after using it. He once again felt the astonishing potential of this life profession when he used the skills of this profession. Just as the Lord Talent said, this career development was extremely important and indeed had extremely high development prospects. Zhou Zhou could not guarantee that he could become an existence like the Supreme Will, but it was very likely that he could become a Master God tier or even a Supreme God realm existence. Not bad, Lord Talent. Zhou Zhou thought to himself. With this Lord Talent, the speed at which his territory entered the mixed virtual reality era would definitely increase again. In the following period of time, Zhou Zhou continued to study this supreme source code. Half an hour later, Aliyah walked into the Divine Kingdom's main hall and knelt on one knee before Zhou Zhou. Your Majesty, Prime Minister Jing requests an audience. Zhou Zhou gave it a thought and the next second, Zheng Yuanqi's body appeared out of thin air in the hall. What can I do for you at this hour, Prime Minister? Zhou Zhou asked casually. Your Majesty, great news. Zheng Yuanqi was a little surprised by his sudden appearance in the hall, but he quickly calmed down and immediately congratulated Zhou Zhou. What good news? Zhou Zhou asked curiously. Your Majesty, I just received the news. From this morning until just now, our Blazing Sun Kingdom states have received more than 150 billion human refugees. These refugees are all from human territory. They all want to join our Blazing Sun Kingdom and become your Majesty's subjects. Now, I've already ordered the officials of the various states to fully accept these refugees and make them subjects of our country. I've also ordered them to properly settle their future work and lives. Zheng Yuanqi smiled. What? 150 billion refugees? Zhou Zhou was shocked by this number. However, he soon reacted. Even though the humans had collectively retreated to the primordial world, the time given to them was too short. No matter how diligent the higher-ups of the human race were, they would definitely make some mistakes and leave a small number of humans behind. This was something that the Yellow Emperor and the others were prepared for. The sudden increase in the number of refugees was probably those humans who did not have the time to retreat to the primordial world or did not want to retreat to the primordial world. Seeing that they had no country to return to, they could only come to the Blazing Sun Kingdom as refugees. This was a good thing. Zhou Zhou's eyes lit up. He was worried that the difference in the number of subjects and soldiers in his territory was too great, causing the development of his territory to be a little uneven. He did not expect so many ordinary subjects to be sent over. We have to make good arrangements for them. We can give them special policy subsidies and try our best to integrate these refugees into the Blazing Sun Kingdom in the shortest time possible. We can also treat the Blazing Sun Kingdom as their new home. Also, we can arrange for the soldiers of the Homeland Defense Army to receive the refugees who want to join the Blazing Sun Kingdom around the territory of the kingdom. We must ensure their safety on the way here. Zhou Zhou ordered. Yes, Your Majesty. Zheng Yuanqi was also smiling. During this period of time, he saw that the ratio of soldiers to ordinary subjects was getting more and more ridiculous. He was secretly worried. Great, there was no need for him to think of a solution. The solution came on its own. There should be at least 3 to 5% of the human refugees in the human territory after all the humans retreated to the primordial world the next day. They had no choice or did not want to leave with them. Even though this ratio was small, on the scale of the entire human race, there were still 30 to 50 trillion human refugees. If their Blazing Sun Kingdom could devour all these refugees, the overall strength of their Blazing Sun Kingdom would increase by at least 10 times or even 100 times. Just imagining that scene made Zheng Yuanqi tremble with excitement. After that, Zhou Zhou and Zheng Yuanqi discussed more about the future arrangements of these human refugees. They chatted until midnight before Zheng Yuanqi left the Divine Kingdom's main hall to busy himself with this matter. As for Zhou Zhou, he continued to return to the time world and began to comprehend the Lord's laws again. The next morning, in the Reincarnation Sacred Palace, Zhou Zhou, who was sitting on a praying mat and meditating, trembled. The aura on his body increased a little. Then, he slowly opened his eyes. A smile appeared on his face as he sensed that the chaos holy power in his body had nearly doubled. I finally comprehended the low-tier deity level intermediate grade nomological skill, King, and used it to advance to the low-tier deity level intermediate grade. With my current strength and realm, coupled with the increase in strength of the King and the power of the myriad method Star Palm, my true combat strength should have officially reached the true God-tier intermediate grade, right? Zhou Zhou muttered. Then, a smile gradually appeared on his face. Chapter 968 Nearly 60 billion soldiers. Master God-tier's blood. Scarlet blood kin. Zhou Zhou stood up and walked towards Mu Gu's residence. Soon, he found Mu Gu who was sitting in an ancient pavilion drinking Jade Sun tea. These were tea leaves that the tea farmers of the Blazing Sun Kingdom had obtained by mutating the Jade Sun tree with supernatural powers. The taste was refreshing and had a faint fragrance that left a lingering aftertaste. Furthermore, long-term consumption of this tea could extend one's lifespan, so it was very popular both inside and outside the Blazing Sun Kingdom. "Greetings, Your Majesty." Seeing His Majesty coming over, Mu Gu hurriedly put down his teacup and stood up respectfully. "Bai Yun and the rest have already gone to your ranchland plain?" Zhou Zhou asked. Box novel. Yes, Your Majesty," Mu Gu said respectfully. "Legion Commander Bai Yun has just entered the ranchland plain." Zhou Zhou acknowledged. "He didn't go in. Instead, he casually sat at the side and got Mu Gu sit down as well. Then, the two of them sipped tea while waiting for Bai Yun to come out. Currently, the ranchland plain of the Shepherd's Valley could produce at most 6.25 billion ranch monsters a day. Facing the more than 30 billion soldiers of the Blazing Sun Kingdom, it was not enough to split evenly. Bai Yun probably wouldn't take long. As expected, in less than half an hour, Bai Yun turned into a white stream of light and flew out of Mu Gu's palm. "Greetings, Your Majesty." He was not surprised and immediately said respectfully when he saw Zhou Zhou. "Did everything go well?" Zhou Zhou smiled. "Your Majesty must be teasing me." Bai Yun replied with a smile. How could a group of ranch monsters that were at most epic tier advanced grade not go smoothly? After he said that, he took out a spatial ring and handed it to Zhou Zhou. Zhou Zhou took it and looked at the items inside. They were 13.5 billion yellow talisman Dao soldier recruitment books, 13.5 billion yellow talisman Dao soldier class change certificates, 3.75 trillion violent storm spirit recruitment books, and 3.75 trillion violent storm spirit class change certificates. Zhou Zhou nodded in satisfaction. Following that, he brought the spatial ring to the gate of summoning and threw all the recruitment books inside. Then, as usual, he called over 20 empty galaxy and had all the soldiers appear in the inner world of the galaxy. Then, he used 100 epic tier mist cores to summon all the recruits at once. The next second, the internal world of the 20 galaxy ships suddenly became crowded. Zhou Zhou looked at these new recruits and nodded slightly. He already had 34,263,379,704 soldiers under his command. Now, with the addition of these 17,250,000,000 new recruits, he had an astonishing number of 51,513,379,704 soldiers. Together with the Star Alliance's 7,412 million soldiers, he had nearly 60 billion soldiers under him. This was almost twice the total number of soldiers yesterday. In 2 days, my soldiers should be able to exceed 100 billion. Zhou Zhou thought to himself. 100 billion soldiers. This was the total military strength of some high-level Empire Lord factions. Moreover, unlike ordinary high-level empires, there were strong and weak ones among their 100 billion soldiers. Moreover, most of them were ordinary soldiers. Only a small number of them were elite soldiers, such as high-level soldiers, kingdom-level soldiers, and empire-level soldiers. Among the nearly 60 billion soldiers under Zhou Zhou, almost all of them were kingdom-level soldiers, the violent storm spirit, and the empire-level soldiers, the yellow talisman Dao soldier. With such a terrifying army in hand, Zhou Zhou's courage increased greatly. He felt that even if he were to face several high-level empire-level lords, he would still dare to fight them. But after calming down, he still dispelled his thoughts. When did he have the means to fight against a Master God tier? Or when did he encounter an empire-level lord faction that did not have the means to fight against a Master God tier? Then, he could talk about attacking an empire-level lord faction. Just relying on will like light, to be honest, his methods were still a little weak. It did not give Zhou Zhou much sense of security. Then, he summoned the 44,000 new subjects from the gate of summoning. He took a look at the professions of these subjects and was pleasantly surprised to discover that among the subjects summoned this time, there was another Epic Tier Advanced Grade Space Magician, a Scarlet Mage, and an Epic Tier Advanced Grade Clone Warlock. The three of them were top-notch professionals. The Space Magician was extremely good at spatial magic. In terms of controlling spatial magic, he was even comparable to a higher-level user of spatial magic. Crimson Law, on the other hand, was a rare mage who practiced Crimson Law and was good at some scarlet magic. As for clone warlocks, they were a type of bloodline warlock. This kind of bloodline warlock was born with the awakened talent, doppelganger technique. Every time they reached a higher level, they could summon a new doppelganger. Each doppelganger could be controlled as a new version of themselves, and they could even take on a new profession. Because of this, the doppelganger warlock had many methods, and it was extremely difficult for him to die. Zhou Zhou looked at the three high-level rare professionals and nodded in satisfaction. It seemed that he had guessed correctly. As his territory level continued to increase, the professionals summoned by his Glory of the Pioneer 7 would gradually become rare and powerful. After that, he handed these recruits to Bai Yun and asked him to bring these soldiers to the human territory to protect the remaining humans and retreat to the primordial world. And then he came to the Lord's shop. When he arrived, he saw old Zhou sitting obediently in front of the counter, waiting for him to arrive. When he saw Zhou Zhou, Zhou Chengmin's eyes lit up and a smile appeared on his face. "Your Majesty." Zhou Chengmin smiled. "Ever since you got into this habit, I'm not used to not seeing you play games." Zhou Zhou sized up him and said. "Your Majesty sure knows how to joke." Zhou Chengmin laughed. Then, he took out 3 golden boxes from under the counter and placed them on the counter before opening them one by one. Zhou Zhou looked at it. The first box contained a drop of blood. Zhou Zhou looked over and raised his eyebrows. Treasure name, Master God Tier's Blood, Treasure Grade, Master God Tier Elementary Grade, Treasure Effect. This is a drop of ordinary divine blood of a spatial Master God Tier. After an ordinary life form consumes this drop of blood, it can allow a living being who has no talent in spatial laws to become a top-notch spatial law talent in the blink of an eye. Moreover, when advancing to the God Spirit realm with spatial laws, the probability of advancing to the God Spirit realm will increase by 20%. The descendants of the living beings who consume the divine blood of this Master God Tier also have an extremely high chance of inheriting the bloodline talent of the first-generation divine blood life form. Treasure description: a drop of low-tier Master God Tier divine blood from a space Master God Tier that still exists in the world. Zhou Zhou looked at the slightly transparent silver drop of blood thoughtfully. He thought of the space magicians among the new subjects. He remembered that it was written in the subject introduction of the space magician that when this space magician was young, he had accidentally eaten a drop of mysterious liquid. After that, he had the talent of space magic. His strength had also advanced by leaps and bounds. From an ordinary life form that was not even a superhuman, he had directly become a professional's. He was even a rare and powerful space magician. This is the mysterious liquid that the spatial magician is currently drinking. Zhou Zhou felt that his guess should be right. He had a premonition and hurriedly looked at the other 2 items. After reading it, he couldn't help but be speechless. It's really exclusive to new subjects. The reason why he said this was because the other 2 goods were the goods of the Scarlet Mage and the clone. Among them, the Scarlet Mage's commodity was a talent crystal called Scarlet Blood Kin. Talent, Scarlet Blood Kin, talent effect. When this talent was born, it was secretly tainted by a wisp of scarlet origin energy. It was born extremely ugly and was tragically abandoned by its biological parents. However, he, who was ugly and hated by everyone, was born with scarlet talent. He could comprehend scarlet spells and even crimson laws that ordinary life forms could not. He had great power, but he yearned for the feelings of ordinary life forms. However, no one pitied him. Scarlet talent, Zhou Zhou was deep in thought. Chapter 969 Master God Tier Talent, Doppelganger Technique. First Doppelganger, Zhou 1. Zhou thought about it and decided to buy it. As a Lord Nomological God Spirit, no matter what nomological path he took or what nomological path he took as a subject, there was always something wrong with him. Then, with a thought, he contacted Mu Gu, who was still in his residence. Mu Gu, are you interested in taking in a disciple? A disciple? Mu Gu, who was in his residence, was stunned. Why did His Majesty suddenly mention this? I just received a subject with good scarlet talent. If you're interested, you can take him in as your disciple. If not, you can arrange for him to be a ranch apprentice on your ranchland plain. Zhou said. Your subject obeys. Mu Gu did not think too much about it and agreed. What a joke. This was the first time His Majesty had asked him to do something else. How could he dare not agree? Even if he didn't want to, he had to agree. Moreover, he was indeed interested in the subjects that His Majesty mentioned had good scarlet talent. Sure. Zhou nodded. His name is Red Face. He has a large scarlet birthmark on his body and most of his face. That's because of his talent. Due to his appearance, he feels inferior and rarely makes birthmark on his body and most of his face. That's because of his talent. Due to his appearance, he feels inferior and rarely makes friends. After you take he in as your disciple, try your best to make more friends. Yes, Your Majesty. Mu Gu agreed readily. He had been staying in the ranchland plain all day long, so when he was bored, His Majesty had instructed him to pass the time. Finding friends for Red Face. Could it be for the Monster Ranch? Mu Gu started to think. Zhou did not say much. He directly cut off the telepathic communication with Mu Gu and looked at the last item. Finding a teacher and friend for Red Face was just something he did in passing. He didn't care about it after he was done. When he saw the third item, he raised his eyebrows again. It's actually this item? He muttered to himself. The third item was also a gifted item. It was that clone warlock's intrinsic talent, Doppelganger Technique. Talent, Doppelganger Technique, talent effect. Every time a living being with this talent increases their strength by a large level, they can use half of their origin power to create a clone that is equivalent to their strength and can exist forever. The summoned clones only had the strength of the main body and the bloodline of the main body. They could not have the extraordinary tier profession that the main body had. When the main body dies, the main Bodhi's consciousness can awaken and revive from the origin power in the clone's body and become a new main body. It's very practical, but it requires one to expend one's own source energy. However, origin power can be replenished by eating supplements, so this talent can still be used. Zhou thought to himself after reading this talent. There was not much else in his king's treasure box. There were so many God Spirit level supplements that they had piled up into several mountains. Even if it was a true God tier level supplement, he had a large pile of them. He had quite a lot of Master God tier supplements. Therefore, he really didn't lack this bit of origin power. He would take his time to make up for it. Moreover, every time one's strength increased by a major realm, one would be able to have a clone that was equivalent to one's strength. For people who were stronger, they would be able to unleash this talent to an even stronger level. Even though it could only replicate one's strength, realm, and bloodline, and could not possess the main Bodhi's profession, it was still quite powerful. Most importantly, doppelgangers were publicly acknowledged as life-saving talents in the infinite worlds. How many mist cores do these three goods cost? Zhou asked. Master God tier elementary grade Master God's blood is worth 20 million legendary tier mist cores. Talent crystal, scarlet blood kin, worth 800 legendary tier mist core. Talent crystal, doppelganger technique, worth 50 million legendary tier mist cores. Zhou Qingmin said. Zhou was shocked. The value of the doppelganger technique was actually more expensive than the blood of a master god tier. This was actually a master god tier level talent. No. For someone like him whose potential had long been raised to the limit of the world, this was indeed a master god tier talent. However, to the clone warlock who only had the potential to become a low-tier deity-level advanced grade god spirit, the upper limit of his future was probably a low-tier deity-level advanced grade god spirit. To him, this talent could only be considered a low-tier deity-level advanced grade talent. The upper limit of this talent still depended on the person who had it. He did not think too much about it and directly took out 70,800,000 legendary tier mist cores to buy these 3 items. Then, he immediately returned to the Divine Kingdom and used the talent crystal of the doppelganger technique. Then, he immediately tried to activate the talent, doppelganger technique. The next second, he felt the origin power in his body rapidly flow out of his heart. Then, it gathered in her hand, forming a ball of 9-colored origin power. When it fell to half of the origin power, the ball of light in his hand slowly condensed into a palm-sized Zhou. He jumped out of Zhou's hand. As he landed on the ground, he rapidly grew in size. By the time he landed on the ground and was already the size of Zhou and his talent avatar looked at each other and suddenly smiled at the same time. From today onwards, your name will be Zhou 1. Zhou said. Sure. Zhou 1 agreed. What do you want to arrange for me to carry out? In the future, you'll be the one to go out with the army. You'll walk in my name when you're outside. Zhou thought for a moment and said, as my main body, I will stay in the time world and comprehend the Lord's laws at all times. If anything happens to you, I'll go over to help you immediately if I can. If I can't, I can only give up on you. That's what I thought too. Zhou 1 smiled. Zhou smiled gently. Then, he threw the universe-destroying blade and the other 5 top-notch true god-tier divine artifacts to Zhou 1. He would leave this set of 6 true god-tier divine artifacts for Zhou 1 to use in battle. He probably wouldn't need it most of the time in the future. Then, he gave the other party a world ring. It was filled with various treasures, including divine artifacts, god spirit level materials, god spirit level potions, and so on. These were all spares for Zhou 1. It would save Zhou 1 the embarrassment of the common people's regal if he couldn't take out anything when he needed to reward his subordinates. Both you and I need to replenish our origin energy as much as possible and make up for the missing half of origin energy as quickly as possible. This way, when you need to fight, you won't have to worry about not having enough origin energy and being unable to unleash your full strength. I can also continue to summon Zhou 2, Zhou 3, Zhou 4, or even more clones. Sure. Zhou 1 answered concisely. Then, he didn't say anything else and went to look for Bai Yun and company. As for Zhou's main body, he once again entered the time world. He used the long years of the mortal world to temper his will and comprehend the Lord's laws. Chapter 970 Battling the True God Tier of the Foreign Races. Master God Tier's Blood and Scarlet Blood Kin. Time passed and it was noon in the blink of an eye. Zhou, who was tempering himself in the time world, suddenly opened his eyes. There's news from Zhou 1 that 8 true God Tier from the people of foreign races have attacked the human race. In the end, Zhou 1, Patriarch Lu, Bai He, and Geralt killed 2 true God Tiers, severely injured 3 true God Tiers, and escaped 3 true God Tiers. He smiled gently and was not surprised at all that a true God Tier of the people of foreign races had taken action. If they did not do their best to stop the humans from retreating to the primordial world, the humans would really escape after all. Wouldn't their efforts over the past few days be wasted? It did not matter if he wasted his efforts. The most important thing was that he could not show his value in front of the incoming people of foreign races. This was a major event that concerned their future as gods. How could they not be anxious? He was even less surprised that the 4 true god tiers on his side had killed off the other 8 true god tiers. First of all, according to Zhou 1, none of the 8 true god tiers from the people of foreign races were advanced grade true gods. Most of them were elementary grade true gods, and only 2 of them were intermediate grade true gods. As for Zhou 1 and the others, although they were at a disadvantage in terms of the number of true god tiers, they all had true god tier divine artifacts. Especially Zhou 1, who even had top-notch true god tier divine artifacts. Therefore, even though they appeared to have the combat power of 4 true god tier elementary grades on the surface, once the battle started, they would have the combat power of 4 intermediate grade true god tier. Especially Zhou. The combination of his king and the myriad method star palm made him an invincible existence at the same level. The 2 true god tiers of the people of foreign races who had died were the work of his alone. He had also contributed a lot to the remaining 6 true god tiers of the people of foreign races. Coupled with their home ground advantage, it was not surprising that they could defeat these 8 true god tiers of the people of foreign races so forcefully. After this battle, the people of foreign races around the human territory probably won't dare to invade my human territory for 1,000 or even 10,000 years. Zhou thought to himself, that's right. This is his human territory. The human race was almost 100% certain that they had completely retreated to the primordial world. Among the remaining human territories, the territory of the 3 human empires, Night, Divine Sword, and Saha, was ruled by him. As for the other human territories, they had been officially abandoned because they were too far away and difficult to rule. He could officially say that he was the rightful ruler of the human race in the high continent. What a pity, you don't want to fight, but I do. Zhou muttered inwardly. How could he let someone else snore beside him on the couch? These people of foreign races had fought with him before, so they were his enemies. When he had a certain level of Master God tier means, he had to personally lead his troops to his territory. These people of foreign races had fought with him before, so they were his enemies. When he had a certain level of Master God tier means, he had to personally lead his troops to his territory. He stopped thinking and casually took out a lotus flower that emitted 9-colored light from his king's treasure box. This lotus was called the 9-colored divine lotus. It was a precious low-tier true god tier supplement. Its main effect was to recover the origin power of a true god tier. Zhou was now a low-tier deity level intermediate grade god spirit. Without using the law skill, King, to increase his realm, this true god tier elementary grade 9-colored divine lotus was completely enough for him to recover his origin. He broke off a lotus leaf and slowly chewed it. He felt the lotus leaf quickly turn into a cool energy that filled the void in his origin. He nodded slightly. At this rate, by this time tomorrow, he should be able to completely. It was the drop of Spatial Master God's blood and talent crystal, the Scarlet Blood Kin. He looked at the 2 items and muttered to himself, these 2 items have huge disadvantages for others. There was no need to mention the blood of a Master God tier since its owner was still alive. There was no Master God tier who walked the law of space even among the 10 Master Gods. However, one's strength and methods could not be underestimated to be able to be ranked as a Master God tier. It was only because that spatial mage was fearless that he dared to use the Master God tier's blood so boldly. Now that Zhou's strength and status had gradually increased, he did not dare to rashly use something that seemed to have great benefits but actually had future troubles. The matter between the Black Dragon Emperor's dragon soul and the Deep Abyss had already taught him a huge lesson. As for the Scarlet Blood Kin's talent crystal, the side effect was that it would only become ugly. Well, Zhou thought for a moment and took out the Bodhi Supreme. Can I use these 2 items? He went straight to the point. The cost is 1 normal question. Bodhi Supreme said lazily. Sure. Zhou acknowledged. It can be used, Bodhi Supreme said happily. Even though the owner of this Master God tier's blood still exists, this is just an ordinary drop of divine blood. As a master god tier, even if he was scattered all over the sea, it can be easily replenished through self-cultivation, recover his origin and summon his second clone. Then, he took out the other two items. Furthermore, don't forget the bloodline you have. You have the Chaos Human bloodline. The drawbacks of the Master God tier bloodline can be easily removed with your current Chaos Human bloodline level. It will be fine as long as you raise your realm to the intermediate grade True God tier before consuming this drop of Master God tier blood. As for this Scarlet Blood Kin Talent Crystal, there's even less to worry about. It's worth 800 legendary tier mist cores. If it can affect the current you, even if it only has a slight effect, it won't be worth this price. But you have to be mentally prepared, since this thing is only worth 800 legendary tier mist cores after all. To you, the effect is only comparable to a legendary tier racial talent. It wouldn't feel like you've increased your Scarlet talent by a lot, it'll at most give you an entry-level Scarlet talent. Bodhi Supreme answered in detail. Are you sure I won't get ugly? Zhou confirmed again. Of course. Bodhi Supreme said lazily, it won't affect you at all. Don't worry. Zhou was slightly relieved to hear that. Then, he first used the Scarlet Blood Kin Talent Crystal. He immediately acutely felt that his divine body had undergone a slight change as this talent crystal turned into wisps of scarlet light infused into his divine body. This change was minimal. If not for Zhou's astonishing perception, he might not have been able to sense the changes in his body. It's really just an entry-level Scarlet talent. Zhou sighed. He took out a mirror and looked at himself to confirm that he did not become ugly. Only then did he truly relax. Then, he picked up the drop of Master God tier's blood and first used his law skill, King, to temporarily raise it to the intermediate grade of the True God tier. Then, he put it into his mouth and swallowed it. Strawberry cream. Zhou said in surprise. Then, he carefully sensed the changes in his body and then, he felt like there weren't many changes. He could sense that his perception of the spatial laws had indeed become clearer. However, there was not much else. To him, the Scarlet Blood Kin was considered a legendary tier bloodline. Then, this drop of Master God tier blood gave him the benefits of a mid-tier deity-level bloodline. It couldn't even be considered a high-tier deity-level bloodline, let alone a true God-tier bloodline. Zhou was a little disappointed, but not too disappointed. It was just a drop of ordinary Master God tier blood after all. It was not the bloodline of a Master God tier. It was already not bad to have such benefits. At this moment, Zhou received another message from his avatar, Zhou 1. Chapter 971 Race Divine Artifact, Lost Chaos Sacrificial Tao Cauldron. Ranking. Zhou 1 said, after the 8 true god tiers were defeated, the people of foreign races lost all their fighting spirit. Afterwards, they symbolically resisted for a while before fleeing and surrendering under the fierce attacks of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Bai Yun and the others were leading all the soldiers of the Blazing Sun Kingdom to capture deserters on the battlefield. The strategic operation of the human race to retreat to the primordial world had also completely come to an end. In another hour or two, the human race would be able to complete this strategic operation. Then, they would activate the primordial infinite heaven shrouding array and completely disappear from the vision of the tens of thousands of races. This retreat is finally coming to an end. I'll deal with the next obstacle. Box novel. Calm Zhou thought with a solemn expression. That was more than 500 billion soldiers and more than 5,000 to 6,000 god spirits from the people of foreign races. Furthermore, there was no lack of god spirits from high-level bloodline races among them. In addition, they carried means such as war machines, divine artifacts, secret treasures, and nomological talismans. Even if Zhou's current combat strength and subordinate forces increased by 10 times, he was probably far from being their match. Fortunately, am the Lord of all races and have the shielding of the supreme agreement. Otherwise, I would probably have retreated to the primordial world like the humans. Zhou Zhou thought to himself. Is Wu Tu beside you? Ask him when would those individuals of foreign races arrive. He asked Zhou Wen inwardly. Zhou Wen soon replied. Tonight? Zhou Zhou's heart trembled. He thought for a moment and said, Tonight, you will guard our 3 human territories with Bai Yun and the others. I'm really afraid that they will vent their anger on my human territory after seeing all the humans disappear. Sure. Zhou Wen's answer was as concise as ever. He was not afraid of anything. The main body could just use half of its origin power to nurture it even if he died. This was a rather resource-consuming matter to other god spirits. However, it was nothing to the wealthy Zhou Zhou. Even if Zhou Wen died, he would lose if he couldn't be revived. Zhou Zhou did not say anything else and continued to grasp the Lord's laws. 2 hours later, Zhou Zhou seemed to have sensed something and slowly opened his eyes. Lines of text notifications suddenly appeared in front of him. System announcement. Human faction quests, cover the humans and retreat to the primordial world, true god tier intermediate grade, unique, has been completed. 1 billion faction points and 1 exclusive human race divine artifact have been distributed. Congratulations, your reputation in the human race has increased to the level of revered. The favorability of the upper echelons of the human race towards you has increased greatly. When Zhou Zhou saw the words and information of the completion of the missions, he knew that the humans had completely retreated to the primordial world. He looked at the rewards for the human faction quests and a smile appeared on his face. The repute of the human race had been raised to the level of reverence. The favorability of the upper echelons of the human race towards him increased greatly. In that case, the bad influence that retreating to the primordial world had on him should be more or less made up for. Even though he didn't do anything wrong, anyone who was weak was in the wrong. Then, he looked at the other 2 rewards. 1 billion faction points. It was a divine artifact exclusive to the human race. When Zhou Zhou saw this, he immediately opened the faction points rankings. First place, Human, Lord of the Blazing Sun, 3,199,000,000 faction points. Second place, Original Spirit Race, True Lord, 2,830,000,000 faction points. Third place, Shepherd's God Race, Heaven Chasing Lord, 2,550,000,000 faction points. Fourth place, Myriad Spirit Race, Spiritual Venerable Lord, 2,025,000,000 faction points. Fourth place, Chaos Gods Race, Great One Lord, 1,915,000,000 faction points. Zhou Zhou looked at the rankings and smiled. He was already ranked 4th when he looked at it yesterday. The human lords on Cerulean Planet were all discussing the sudden drop in his ranking. There were even lords who publicly uttered on the World Channel that the Lord of the Blazing Sun was no longer capable. Even though these lords were quickly criticized by the other human lords on Cerulean Planet, the Lord of the Blazing Sun was publicly acknowledged as the hope of the entire human race on Cerulean Planet after all. If the Lord of the Blazing Sun fell, unless another Lord of the Blazing Sun emerged, their future outcome would definitely not be good. However, from this matter, it could be seen that the decline in his ranking had a certain impact on his reputation. Now that he had returned to being the number 1 of the myriad races, he should be able to break through these doubts. Not bad, not bad. Zhou Zhou nodded slightly. The tens of billions of troops under he were not in vain. They did not do anything else for the past 3 days and focused on protecting the humans and retreating to the primordial world. Now, it was finally time for the results. Then, he eagerly looked up at the racial divine artifact that had just appeared in front of him. It was about 1,000 feet tall and emitted an extremely ancient aura. The cauldron's body was engraved with scenes of ancient chaos humans hunting chaos beasts. Strands of dense chaotic airflow dissipated from the cauldron, making this ancient cauldron even more mysterious, as if it came from billions of years ago. Zhou Zhou looked at it before his divine body suddenly trembled. This is, the Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron of the Chaos Humans. He muttered. Race Divine Artifact Name, Lost Chaos Sacrificial Dao Cauldron, Equipment Grade, Race Divine Artifact Ability, Sacrifice Dao, a race-specific divine artifact of the human race. Place the race-specific divine artifact of the individuals of foreign races in the Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron. Then, by sacrificing the corpses of the god spirits of the people of foreign races and a certain number of divine crystals, it can transform the race-specific divine artifact of the people of foreign races into a race-specific divine artifact of the human race. The specific sacrificial requirements depend on the quality of the race-specific divine artifact that needs to be transformed. Remaining number of conversions, 1. Prompt 1. After the enhancement of your scavenger talent, the number of conversions of the Lost Chaos Sacrificial Dao Cauldron has increased to 6/6. Race Divine Artifact Description. After the death of the Chaos Will, the grade of the former Chaos Human Race's divine artifact also decreased greatly. Moreover, its functions also underwent a random change. If we want this race divine artifact to regain its former ability, we need the luck of the human race to restore its former glory. Note 1, this race's divine artifact is exclusive to the human race. It is only effective on humans. Zhou Zhou looked at this racial divine artifact. The Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron was once the strongest divine artifact of the Chaos human race. Back then, the Chaos humans were able to hunt Chaos beasts like prey and not be eaten by them. This Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron was indispensable. Zhou Zhou's Chaos human bloodline heritage recorded, the Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron's initial ability was to offer the nomological items to the Chaos Will through the periodic Chaos Dao sacrificial ceremony. Then, the Chaos Will would bestow blessings on the Chaos humans to obtain all kinds of blessings. It was a little similar to the current Imperial Ancestral Temple but much stronger. For example, blessings that permanently increased one's potential, blessings that permanently increased one's combat power, blessings that permanently increased one's comprehension ability, blessings that bestowed divine weapons. These blessings greatly increased the survival and combat ability of the chaotic human race and made the Chaos Beast's life miserable. At that time, the Chaos humans were equivalent to the favored children of the chaotic world. Their status was even higher than the current original spirit race. Unfortunately, the Chaos humans were almost exterminated with the death of the Chaos Will. They even allowed the Chaos Beasts to rise. Now, they even gained the repute of the Chaos Gods race. I didn't expect the human race's exclusive divine artifact to be the Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron. But the ability to transform into a racial divine artifact. Zhou Zhou was deep in thought. Chapter 972 Converting Race Divine Artifacts. Zhou Zhou pondered. He now had divine artifacts from 3 different races. The first was naturally the race divine artifact exclusive to the human race on the cerulean planet, such as the Sword of Xian Yuan and the Holy Record. The second was a general-purpose racial divine artifact, which was the Lucky Star. The divine artifact of the third race was the divine artifact of the people of foreign races. Currently, he only had one, and that was the blessing of the Ice Demon God. Vicky, the first god spirit of his Sun Kingdom, had become a god thanks to the probability of becoming a god provided by this race's divine artifact. In addition to his own accumulation, he had leaped to the level of a god spirit. Box novel. This blessing of the Ice Demon God was a bone necklace that was bone white in color. At the bottom of the necklace, there was a thumb-sized ice blue ice demon's head. Its eyes were closed quietly, its face giving off a sense of charity. It was the blessing of the race's divine artifact, the Ice Demon God. Race Divine Artifact Name, Blessing of the Ice Demon God, Equipment Grade, Race Divine Artifact Ability 1, Desire to become a God, the Ice Demon God, Ba-yi sacrificed to the supreme will and returned all his divine power and accumulated faith to his race's people before he died. Ba-yi hoped that after he died, his race would be able to quickly produce new god spirits to continue protecting his race. When the ice demon race's people advanced to the low-tier deity tier elementary grade, the probability of successfully advancing is increased by 10%. Race Divine Artifact Ability 2, Blessing of the Ice Spike King. When the Ice Demon clan is born, there is a very small probability that they will automatically have the talent, Invisibility. Introduction to Race Divine Artifact. The Ice Demon God, Bai used himself as a sacrifice to ask the Supreme Will for mercy. This is a Race Divine Artifact created by Ba-yi. It contains Ba-yi's deep love for the Ice Demon race. Note, this race's divine artifact is exclusive to the Ice Demon race. It is only effective on the Ice Demon race. This racial divine artifact has two effects. One is to increase the probability of advancing to the God Spirit realm by 10%. The second is to make the Ice Demon subjects have a very small chance of becoming invisible when they are born. The effects of these two races' divine artifacts are really quite useful. Especially the former. For someone like me who needs a significant amount of God Spirit subordinates, it can simply be said to be the effect of the race's divine artifact that I need the most at the moment. If I can transform he into a racial divine artifact, it will be worthwhile it even if the effects are reduced. Zhou thought. As for the Ice Demon clan. Alright, even though he did have ice demons under him, the total number of them didn't exceed 50 million. The difference was not small compared to the 200 billion human subjects in the Blazing Sun Kingdom. With such a huge difference in the number of subjects, they naturally had to use their race sacred artifacts on humans to unleash the greatest value of their race divine artifacts. At most, they would give more resources to the Ice Demon race in the future. This way, there wouldn't be much of a difference whether they had race divine artifacts or not. Of course, most importantly, he was ultimately a human. His selfish motive was to give more benefits to the human race. Zhou would not deny it. After making his decision, Zhou no longer hesitated. He directly placed this racial relic into the mouth of the Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron. The Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron seemed to have sensed something. Its entire body trembled slightly before sending a message to Zhou. I need the chaotic sacred power of the true God-tier chaos human race to activate the Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron. Then, I need to sacrifice a low-tier true God-tier ice-type material, 100 low-tier true God-tier elementary grade divine crystals, or divine crystals comparable to the total energy of 100 low-tier true God-tier divine crystals. Zhou clicked his tongue. The chaotic sacred power of the chaotic human race was naturally nothing. A low-tier true God-tier ice attribute material and 100 low-tier true God-tier divine crystals were more expensive. Of course, this was for other life forms. Naturally, Zhou could afford it. From the looks of it, if I want to use this Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron, I have to rely on a true God-tier chaos human. Fortunately, not only am I a chaos human, I'm also a Lord Law God Spirit. I've grasped a heaven-defying law skill that can temporarily increase my strength. Otherwise, I really wouldn't be able to use this race's divine artifact. Zhou secretly rejoiced. Then, he waved his right hand, and the Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron in front of him disappeared. Following that, he instantly vanished from his spot. In the next second, he arrived in a silent starry sky. This was a silent starry sky in his divine kingdom world. However, while it was called the starry sky, in fact, there was not even a planet, let alone life within a radius of 10 million light-years. There were only a few planets further away, and they were still dead planets with no signs of life. Refining a new race divine artifact here shouldn't be a problem even if there's a huge commotion, right? Zhou muttered. Then, he took out the Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron from the king's treasure box and placed it in the cosmos. Then, Zhou Zhou placed his hand on the exterior of the cauldron and activated the law skill, King, to raise his strength to the intermediate true god tier grade. Then, he began to continuously inject his chaotic sacred power into the Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron. As the chaotic sacred power continued to be injected, the Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron's violent trembling became smaller and smaller at the beginning. In the end, it completely quietened down. However, in contrast, more and more chaotic airflow was emitted from its surface. It even enveloped the dead starry sky within 1,000,000 kilometers, temporarily turning this place into a chaotic world. When Zhou Zhou saw this scene, he clicked his tongue even more. The might of this racial divine artifact seemed to far surpass any racial divine artifact that he had previously obtained. As expected of the Chaos human race's divine artifact back then. Even if its grade had decreased greatly now, it was still not something that ordinary race sacred artifacts could compare to. Time passed quickly. Even if its grade had decreased greatly now, it was still not something that ordinary race sacred artifacts could compare to. After Zhou Zhou received this information, he immediately threw all the true god-tier elementary grade ice spirit crystals and 100 million low-tier deity-level elementary grade divine crystals into the Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron. The exchange ratio between true god-tier divine crystals and low-tier deity-level elementary grade divine crystals was ridiculous, reaching 1 to 1 million. This did not mean that one true god tier was comparable to 1,000,000 low-tier deity-level elementary grade god spirits. However, the quality of one unit of true god-tier elementary grade divine power was indeed comparable to the combined quality of 1,000,000 units of low-tier deity-level elementary grade god spirits. It was precisely because of this that Zhou Zhou did not want to easily use true god-tier divine crystals. Instead, he used divine crystals that could be dropped by legendary tier experts. Zhou Zhou still had hundreds of millions of them in his king's treasure box after all. Even if Zhou Zhou had the king of loots, he only had 2,000 to 3,000 of them. Speaking of which, after investing 100,000-year-old ice soul spirit crystals and 100 million low-tier deity-level elementary grade divine crystals, this Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron immediately emitted a chaotic light. Chaotic flames burned in its cauldron as it began to burn the people of foreign races' sacred artifacts in the cauldron. Zhou Zhou waited quietly. Chapter 973 New Race Divine Artifact, Ice Spirit Sacred Heart. The army of the foreign races arrives. A moment later, the lid of the cauldron suddenly opened as the Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron shook. Following that, a dark blue stream of light flew out. After flying a few rounds in the cosmos, it reluctantly flew back to Zhou Zhou. When Zhou Zhou saw this scene, he could not help but smile. Treasures had spirits. What's more, it was a supreme treasure like a race divine artifact. Therefore, he was not surprised by the actions of this new race divine artifact. He looked at the divine artifact. After being modified by the Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron, the appearance of this new race divine artifact had already undergone a drastic change. Box Novel. Khan the original ice demon god's blessing was a necklace made of bones. However, this new race divine artifact was completely carved from true god-tier divine crystals with ice elemental laws. Moreover, at the core of the necklace, there was an extremely exquisite human head ornament that looked like a dark blue crystal. A text notification appeared as he looked at it. Race divine artifact name, Ice Spirit Sacred Heart, Equipment Grade, Race Divine Artifact Ability 1, Desire to become a god. Originally a race divine artifact of the Ice Demon race, it was later modified by the Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron of the Chaos human race and transformed into an exclusive race divine artifact of the human race. When the Ice Demon race advances to the low-tier deity tier elementary grade, the probability of successfully advancing is increased by 10%. Race Divine Artifact Ability 2, Blessing of the Law of Ice. When humans are born, there is a very small chance that they will automatically possess an ice element talent, Heart of Ice. Introduction to Race Divine Artifact, previously, it was a race divine artifact of the ice demon race. Later, it was modified by the common people's regal into a race divine artifact exclusive to the human race with the Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron. It has the effect of helping the human race increase the probability of becoming a god and increasing the talent of the human race. Note 1, this race's divine artifact is exclusive to the human race. It is only effective on humans. Heart of Ice. Creatures with Heart of Ice can easily control ice elemental elements and comprehend ice elemental spells. Not bad. Zhou heaved a sigh of relief when he saw the specific effects of the advancement. A smile appeared on his face. Even though the probability of becoming a god had decreased by 2%, he was already mentally prepared for this loss. Moreover, an 8% chance was a terrifying increase for the humans of the endless heavens. Coupled with the blessing ability of the ice law, it would definitely allow his human race to produce many geniuses with ice elemental spells in the future. He looked at the remaining conversion times of the Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron. There were still 5 more times before he could convert another 5 people of foreign races' race divine artifacts. I have to find other races' divine artifacts, Zhou thought. Actually, this was not very difficult. His first option was to ask the Bodhi Supreme directly. The Bodhi Supreme was almost omniscient. It definitely knew where the ownerless divine artifacts of the race were. However, when it came to the matter of the race's divine artifact, the Bodhi Supreme would definitely require an official number of answers before he was willing to tell him the answer. Zhou attached great importance to the number of times Bodhi Supreme answered his questions. The number of times he answered an official question might save his life at critical moments after all. Therefore, he did not want to ask Bodhi Supreme questions easily for the time being unless it was necessary. As for the second option, it was to expand his territory. There were definitely a few foreign races in the Supreme Continent which had race divine artifacts. Zhou could directly attack them and plunder their race divine artifacts. In the High Continent, war and conquest were the theme of the entire continent. As long as there was no alliance between foreign countries, they could directly attack the territories of the people of foreign races without any reason. If he had to ask for an offensive reason, it would be to develop himself in order to fight for the position of the Lord of all races. No one could say anything about this hardcore and universal reason. If it was a Lord faction under the Supreme will that attacked the Scarlet Lord faction under the Crimson Overlord, it would be even worse. If they met, they would fight and snatch. If I want to find information about the race's divine artifact without asking the Bodhi Supreme, we can only temporarily gather information about this through the Heavenly Map Army, the Starfire Mercenary Group, and the Mysterious Caravan. Zhou thought. The Heavenly Map Army collected secret information at the grassroots level. The Starfire Mercenary Group collected secret information about mid-level factions. The Mysterious Caravan collected secret information about high-level factions. These 3 intelligence forces together formed a complete and useful intelligence network in Zhou's hands. Then, he thought about the future development arrangements for a while before carrying out the daily activities of the Eye of the Heavens anger. Time passed quickly. Night fell in the blink of an eye. The Saha Empire's territory. Boundless Imperial City. Zhou was sitting there quietly. The reason why he was here was that according to the information they had received, the people of foreign races would arrive at the Saha Empire immediately tonight. Zhou was meditating and waiting here because he was waiting for them. After an unknown period of time, Zhou suddenly opened his eyes. As he stood up, his divine body also vanished from the spot. The Saha Empire's border city, Barkhouse City. This was an epic tier advance grade territory. At the same time, it was also a military fortress. There were all kinds of powerful war machines placed on it. It looked like an indestructible iron city. However, at this moment, the defenders on the Iron City gazed at the enemies outside the city and did not feel that the city could resist their attack for long. That was because there were too many enemies outside. To what extent? There were so many that even God's spirits could not see the end of the enemy even if they tried their best to survey the distance with their eyesight and divine consciousness. They seemed to be trapped in a world filled with enemies, and they were like turtles in a jar. Even though it was a blow to his confidence to describe it this way, the reality was indeed like this. So many God spirits, as a member of the Shepherd's God race, Yuan Tsong had successfully advanced to a high-tier deity-level elementary-grade God spirit with the help of the massive amount of promotion energy provided by the blessing of the war god and its own comprehension of laws. With his astonishing perception, he could sense that the countless of troops in front of him contained thousands of people of foreign race God spirits. Furthermore, there were dozens of them that made him, a high-tier deity level, feel a menacing presence that made his divine body tremble. It was the aura of a true God tier. There were actually dozens of true God tier existences among the people of foreign races. He couldn't help but feel a little suffocated faced with so many true God tiers, even though he was a God spirit of the Shepherd's God race. But at this moment, a middle-aged man with white hair walked in front of him and gazed at the people of foreign races with a solemn gaze. Then, he emitted his true God tier pressure. It was the original sin and the demon hunter true God, Gerald. Are you one of the true God tiers who are the pillars of the human race? An arrogant voice came from the people of foreign races. Gerald surveyed the area with his divine telekinesis, and his heart immediately turned cold. This was because he actually didn't notice what the other party was saying. This meant that the other party's strength had already surpassed his. He was at least at true God tier intermediate grade. Gerald was about to speak when, whoosh. A pale green divine light shot out from the people of foreign races alliance army. This divine light emitted the charm of declining laws. Once it hit Gerald, even if Gerald was a true God tier, he would probably be severely injured. Gerald's expression changed. He did not expect the other party to attack so suddenly. The speed of light was extremely fast. At this moment, Gerald did not even have the time to activate the crown of original sin to defend against this divine light attack. At this moment, a cold snort sounded. In the next moment, Zhou Zhou, who was wearing the Emperor's dragon robe, suddenly appeared before Gerald. He held the universe-destroying blade in his hand and cut off the pale green divine light with one slash. Then, he used the myriad method star palm to absorb all its nomological power. Then, he gazed up at the people of foreign races alliance army. A sloppy true God tier of the people of foreign races who was hiding in the void and wearing a green robe said coldly, "How dare you attack this king's worshipped God spirit? Are you going to violate the supreme agreement and start a war with me?" When the people of foreign races heard the word supreme agreement, their arrogance immediately quietened down. Chapter 974 Master God Tier Seed. Confronting Uriel. The battlefield of hundreds of billions of soldiers and generals suddenly fell silent because of the word supreme agreement. No one dared to touch this taboo. After a long time, a god spirit who was pitch black and exuded a terrifying true god tier aura walked out of the deities. He had white hair and carried two black axes that were tens of thousands of feet long. He was called Uriel, from one of the top races in the myriad worlds, the Titan gods. At the same time, he was also the strongest and highest commander of the people of foreign races. Common people's regal. His voice rumbled and was extremely penetrating. The space was shaken by his voice, producing transparent ripples that seemed to be able to shatter space and spread throughout the heavens. You said that this true god tier of the human race is your worshipped god spirit? Zhou Wan looked at him with a solemn expression. Box novel. Calm so strong. This fellow's divine spirit realm was definitely at the true god tier advanced grade. Furthermore, it was infinitely close to the level of a master god tier. It was even likely that he had already experienced a trace of the power of will. He was only a step away from becoming a master god tier. A Master God tier seed. These people of foreign races had actually sent out their Master God tier seeds in order to destroy the human forces behind him. Fortunately, the Yellow Emperor had made a decision in advance and led most of the humans to retreat to the primordial world. Otherwise, once this fellow led an army over, not to mention ordinary humans, even true god tiers like the Yellow Emperor would probably not be able to escape this fellow's vicious attacks. Right. Even though the enemy he faced was very terrifying, Zhou Wen still said calmly on the surface. How dare you? Uriel suddenly roared in anger. Even the laws of space trembled because of his roar. The human race actually dared to violate the supreme agreement and give you the true god of the human race as your subordinate to destroy the balance of the races. I, Uriel, the true god of strength and dominance, will definitely lead the allied forces of the people of foreign races to flatten your territory today and turn the matter of the Lord of all races back on track. As soon as he finished speaking, the hundreds of billions of soldiers of the people of foreign races and the thousands of god spirits under his command were already boiling with killing intent before he could do anything. They stared fixedly at Zhou and the tens of billions of soldiers behind him. They kept roaring offensive words in the language of various races, as if they were about to swarm over in the next second and drown Zhou and his soldiers and god spirits, tearing them apart and devouring them. Such a shocking aura, even though Zhou's soldiers had experienced many battles, they could not help but feel terrified. Fortunately, they were not vegetarians. Even in the face of such strong pressure, they gritted their teeth and stared at the hundreds of billions of soldiers of the people of foreign races and the thousands of god spirits of the people of foreign races without any intention of retreating or fear. Ill fight if you want to fight. It was just a fight to the death. What did the soldiers and god spirits of the Blazing Sun Kingdom have to fear? As for Zhou, who was the first to bear the brunt of the auras of these people of foreign race god spirits and soldiers, he calmly received their terrifying auras. He even had the leisure to size up this true god tier of the people of foreign races. Uriel wasn't afraid of Zhou's gaze at all. He kept looking at him coldly. Zhou Wen watched for a while. When he saw that the true god tier still had no intention of making a move, he uttered regretfully, "He is the original sin and the true god of demon hunting, Geralt. He is indeed the offering of this king's worshipped god spirit. And since he can stand here safely, it means that the supreme agreement also acknowledges his identity. If you don't believe me, you can attack me. However, when the Supreme will manifests the Supreme Eye to punish you, don't blame me for not reminding you before." With the help of the chaotic sacred power, Zhou's voice easily spread into the ears of all the people of foreign races present. Most of the god spirits looked like they had eaten shit when they heard this. Uriel's expression darkened as well. The reason why he didn't attack immediately after saying that was because he realized this. He had the honor of personally witnessing the might of the Supreme Agreement and still had a deep impression of the Supreme Heavenly Might that couldn't be offended. Therefore, he was also afraid that what this common people's regal uttered was true. He was the seed of the Master God tier. He could not put himself in danger because of such a thing. That would not be worth it. The threat of the common people's regal was indeed great. However, it was not as important as his own life. He also felt that it was a pity. If only this common people's regal was lying. He could take the opportunity to attack. As long as he destroyed the common people's regal, he would definitely be able to obtain the rewards from the elders in the clan. At that time, not to mention advancing to the Master God tier, even if he reached the intermediate Master God tier grade or even the advanced Master God tier grade, there might still be a glimmer of hope. Now that the common people's regal uttered this, his hope should be gone. However, he was still unwilling to trust it. How long has it been? What method did this common people's regal use to bypass the restrictions of the Supreme Agreement in such a short period of time and allow another true God-level expert to appear in his territory? A true God tier from the common people's regal was already annoying enough. He actually had another true god tier under his command. How could they rely on the Lord of all races to restrict King of the Blazing Sun's development in the future? Moreover, he had swept through most of the Blazing Sun Kingdom's troops and God's spirit with a sweep of his divine sense. A look of doubt flashed across his face. What did they just see? Other than this true god tier, there were actually more than 100 god spirits under the command of the common people's regal. Furthermore, his soldiers had also reached nearly 60 billion. After reading it, there was only one thought left in Uriel's mind. How did this guy develop? This guy's Lord faction was not even an advanced kingdom, right? Why was the number of troops and god spirits already comparable to the number of troops and god spirits of some high-level Empire Lord factions? If he continued to develop, it wouldn't be long before he would have a Lord faction comparable to a Divine Kingdom's Lord faction. He felt troubled. Uriel carefully observed his surroundings and soon narrowed his eyes again. This god remembers that this is the Barkhouse city of the human race's Sahai Empire. We're here to attack the human race. You're leading troops to guard this place now. Are you going to protect this city or even the entire Sahai Empire? Killing intent rose in the depths of Uriel's eyes again. If this common people's regal dared to say yes, he would dare to directly attack the common people's regal. At that time, so what if you were the number one lord of all races? Since you dare to interfere in the battle between the local forces of our high continent, I have a suitable reason to attack you. When the time comes, who cares if you are a lord of all races? To the local factions, the identity of a lord of all races was indeed a battle-free token, but it also had its limits. The lord of all races were not allowed to interfere in the battle between the local lords. Once the lords of the myriad races helped the local lords for their own selfish reasons, they could not blame the enemy for attacking the local lords. Faced with Uriel's question, Zhou Wan's expression was indifferent. He even smiled with interest. Let me reintroduce you. The Divine Sword Empire, the Night Empire, and the Sahai Empire under my feet officially belong to me. Which means, the territory you want to attack is the territory of this Lord of all races. Please don't have any inappropriate thoughts about this king's territory. Otherwise, if anything happens to you, don't say that you didn't expect it. What? As soon as these words were spoken, all the people of foreign race god spirits and soldiers gazed at Zhou in disbelief. The territories of the three human empires now belong to this king of the blazing sun. How is this possible? Are you kidding me? Uriel was so furious that he laughed. The human race even gave you the territories of the three empires. Why don't you just declare yourself as the master of the human race? Chapter 975 Leave. Enjoy the main body and suffer the clone's departure. Zhou Wan did not say anything. Instead, he summoned a four-colored throne from his king's treasure box. This four-colored kingdom was called the Four Primordial Soul Seat. It was a high-tier deity-level intermediate-grade divine artifact. It had the ability to suppress elemental attacks, assist in controlling the elements, assist in comprehending the four great laws of earth, water, wind, and fire, and a portion of defensive and self-protection divine artifact abilities. Of course, these effects were actually not very useful to Zhou Wan, who had a full set of true god-tier weapons. But he could make he sit down and act cool. That was enough. Like now, Zhou Wan sat calmly in the Four Primordial Spirits seat. He supported his chin with one hand and tapped the armrest with the other as he looked at Uriel with a faint smile. It's still the same thing. Box novel. Calm, if you don't believe me, you can attack and try. Uriel looked at Zhou Wan in bewilderment. The more magnanimous he was, the more it proved that he was confident in what he said. Could this fellow be anticipating that he would lead his troops to charge forward, and then violate the supreme agreement and be killed by the supreme punishment? That was what Uriel thought. At this moment, when the other god spirits and soldiers saw Zhou Wan's arrogant appearance, they immediately became furious. They wanted to immediately rush over and teach Zhou a harsh lesson so that he wouldn't be so arrogant. However, when they saw that their highest commander, Uriel, had not made a move, they could only suppress their anger in their hearts. Seconds ticked by. Neither side made a move. At this moment, the battlefield was a little strange. Uriel's side was 10 times stronger than Zhou's, and the difference was even greater. However, the side that had the upper hand was the Blazing Sun Kingdom side, where Zhou was. Uriel's side, on the other hand, seemed to be in a dilemma. He wanted to fight, but he did not dare to. He wanted to retreat, but he was too embarrassed to do so. After a long time, Uriel took a deep breath and took a deep look at Zhou. Then, he turned around and ordered the people of foreign race soldiers and god spirits. Retreat. As soon as he finished speaking, apart from a small number of people of foreign race soldiers and god spirits who seemed to have guessed something, they looked at Zhou and company indignantly. Most of the people of foreign race soldiers and god spirits were shocked. Highest Commander, why? Our military strength is clearly far superior to them. Why aren't we attacking? Your Excellency Uriel, you don't really believe that this fellow has the ability to take over the territories of the 3 human empires, do you? What right does he have to take over such a large territory? He is clearly scaring us. Your Excellency, are we retreating just like that? The people of foreign races said indignantly. They had crossed billions of light years with the intention of destroying the entire human race. Unexpectedly, before they had even taken down a human city, the highest commander on their side had already ordered them to retreat. Who would be willing to accept this? Shut up. Uriel looked coldly at the god spirits of the people of foreign races who opposed them. If you don't believe my judgment, you can barge into Bark City on your own. However, if you really want to do this, remember that regardless of whether you succeed or fail later, the consequences of your choice have nothing to do with me and the people of Foreign Race Alliance army led by me. Don't think of implicating us later. Now, get lost and obediently go do your job. Towards the end, Uriel's voice was filled with cold killing intent. These people of foreign race god spirits were unwilling. Did they think about how a master god tier seed like him would willingly retreat? As the commander-in-chief of this offensive operation, he originally felt that his face was not glorious enough because he had given the order to retreat. Would these god spirits of the people of foreign races still dare to rush in front of him and bark afterward? Was it really because he didn't dare to kill them? Many people of foreign race god spirits did not dare to offend this master god tier seed. No one dared to object anymore. At this moment, Uriel turned to look at Zhou. Let's go to the territories of the Great Xia Empire and the Heavenly Barbarian Empire. He looked deeply at Zhou. That place is not the territory of this common people's regal. Zhou looked at him calmly. Uriel smiled gently and led his army into the distance. After he left, the soldiers and god spirits on Zhou's side heaved a sigh of relief. The pressure that Uriel and his army had put on them just now was too great. Even if they were prepared in advance and had the courage to fight them to the death, they could not help but be a little timid in the face of such a terrifying enemy. After all, most of the enemies they faced in the past were of similar strength, and their own strength often far exceeded the other parties. It was their first time experiencing such a situation where the enemy's strength was 10 times or even more than their own, and they were already at their door. Then, they couldn't help but look at Zhou. This was their first time experiencing it. His Majesty was the same. However, His Majesty actually faced the other party so calmly. Moreover, he did not fall for the enemy's verbal trap at all. With just a word, he forced the other party back. Their hearts were filled with admiration for such boldness that could remain calm even if Mount Tai collapsed. As expected of their Majesty. Spellcaster Gaga looked at His Majesty's imposing back as he sat on the throne and said with reverence, in the crowd. He forced back hundreds of billions of enemies with a single word. His Majesty is the calmest and most fearless spellcaster king I've ever seen. Of course. Bai Yun and the rest also recovered from their frightened emotions. They said proudly after hearing Spellcaster Gaga's words. His Majesty had never disappointed them. He would always be the object of their pursuit and learning. At the same time, Zhou Wan, who was sitting cross-legged in the 4 primordial soul seats, had an incomparably profound gaze. He didn't feel proud of using words to force the other party back. He was just using the Supreme Agreement as a flag to scare the other party. They were afraid of the Supreme Agreement, not he himself. If not for the Supreme Agreement, Uriel would have led all the soldiers of the people of foreign races and the god spirits of the people of foreign races to attack together. Apart from himself, Bai Yun and the rest would probably have died. He was thinking about the Great Xia Empire and the Heavenly Barbarian Empire. Go on. You'll only find that there's not a single human left there. All that's left are self-built buildings that even the building blueprints have been taken away. Zhou Wan was filled with disdain. Still, he looked in the direction they had left and gradually made up his mind, sooner or later, his main body would also bring an endless army of blazing suns to your race's territory, destroy your race, and seize your territory. He came from the same source as Zhou Zhou's main body. What he was thinking now was almost equivalent to what Zhou Zhou's main body would think after knowing about this matter. Then, he turned to look at Bai Yun and company. Continue guarding the territories of the 3 empires. Be careful and pay attention to their movements at all times. Be careful that they will make a comeback. He said. Yes, Your Majesty. The soldiers said respectfully. Zhou Wan nodded and slowly hid in his space. Even though he had disappeared, everyone was still calm and filled with a strong sense of security. That was because they knew that their Majesty was currently sheltering them in the dark. The Blazing Sun Kingdom. In the Divine Kingdom passageway, in the Reincarnation Sacred Palace. Zhou Zhou opened his eyes. If nothing goes wrong, this matter should have come to an end. He thought to himself. Even Uriel wouldn't dare to violate the Supreme Agreement and invade his human territory. With Zhou Wan's perspective, he could tell that the fellow valued his life very much. It didn't seem like an existence that would risk his life for a race mission. Next, he would continue to focus on his activities. He would hunt the target of the Eye of the Heaven's anger and increase the level of his territory. It was time for his kingdom to be upgraded to an advanced kingdom. But, the next time I encounter such a thing, I can use my will to seize the body of my clone and control it to experience what he has experienced. This way, we can go through some dangerous and exciting things. If I encounter a danger that's enough to kill me, only my clone will die, not my main body. Zhou Zhou thought to himself. It had to be said that it was very gratifying to show off in front of his subjects and enemies. Let me go through this as my main body. Usually, he would let his clones will control his body before returning to his main body in the king's city. This way, he could maximize his safety and interest without delaying his comprehension of the laws. It could be said to be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Chapter 976 The Foreign Race Alliance is retreating. The next day, in the Reincarnation Sacred Palace. Zhou Zhou, who was sitting cross-legged on a golden mat, slowly opened his eyes. He received news from Zhou Wan the moment he woke up. The territories of the Great Xia Empire and the Heavenly Barbarian Empire have been attacked by the people of foreign races led by Uriel. Under their attacks, the territories of the 2 empires have turned into nomological death zones. Unless an existence at the Master God tier level takes action to eliminate the danger of the nomological death zones, I'm afraid no life forms will be able to live in them for at least 100,000 years. After Zhou Zhou received the news, his expression turned even colder. Zhou 1, get Bai Yun to record the identities of all the attackers. He sent a voice transmission. Sure. Zhou 1 immediately replied. Zhou Zhou didn't say anything else. He just looked at the starry sky of the divine world outside the temple. Uriel and the participants of the people of foreign races. One day, I will definitely do this to your territory 10 times or 100 times over. He said softly. It wouldn't take too long. What happened after they did this? What did they do now? Zhou Zhou asked after a moment of silence. They're retreating now. Zhou 1 replied. Zhou Zhou frowned slightly. Retreat? How is that possible? This time, they came with more than 500 billion soldiers, more than 5,000 to 6,000 god spirits, and dozens of true god tiers. In addition, he himself is a master god tier seed. Will he be willing to destroy an uninhabited territory and then retreat dejectedly? Even if he is willing, what will the people of foreign races led by him think of him? What will the upper echelons of the titans who sent him think of him? If he really did that, the powerhouses he knows and those who know he will definitely label him as incompetent. How could he, a titan who values his future so much, make such a choice that would affect his future? The more Zhou Zhou thought about it, the more he felt that there was something fishy about the enemy's retreat. Tell Wu Tu not to let down his guard. They won't retreat so easily. Zhou Zhou reminded him. Sure. Zhou 1 said concisely. In addition, Zhou Zhou thought for a moment and his expression turned cold. Order Wu Tu to start gathering information on the people of foreign races who had previously stopped the humans from retreating to the primordial world. The foreign races who have the power of an empire-level lord will not move for the time being. However, those racial factions that don't have empire-level lord factions and are at most kingdom-level lord factions dare to take advantage of the situation when our human race is in danger. Now that I've freed up my hands, I'll bring my troops back one by one. There are too many races involved in this crusade against the people of foreign races. There's no way to hide it. In that case, let's do it openly. First, send a letter of surrender to these races and forces, ordering them to surrender tactfully. If they are willing to surrender and join my blazing sun kingdom, we can let bygones be bygones after a small punishment. However, if they are unwilling to surrender and insist on resisting stubbornly, don't blame us for attacking them. If they would rather die than surrender, then we'll find a good home for them. Let these people of foreign races who would rather die than surrender, be annihilated. Towards the end, even though Zhou Zhou's voice was light, the coldness in his voice could not be concealed. Annihilation. This was an extremely cruel term for any faction. However, in this battle involving countless races in the myriad worlds, such things were actually not rare. It could even be said to be common. Didn't Uriel come to their human territory with the intention of annihilating their race? If not for the primordial world left behind by Imperial Lord Pangu, which could be the last place for the human race to rest and take refuge, the human race would probably have been plunged into a crisis of extinction. On the first day that Zhou Zhou descended to the Supreme Continent, he thought that if he became stronger in the future, he might inevitably encounter such a thing. Therefore, he was already mentally prepared. Since these hostile people of foreign races had previously stopped them from retreating to the primordial world and almost caused their race to be annihilated, now that the human race was temporarily out of danger, he could not be blamed for counter-attacking with even more ruthless methods. The other party had already maliciously wanted them to be annihilated. Even if it was just a helper, there was no need for him to think for them. He had to return the favor 10,000 times over. This was what Zhou Zhou was thinking. Sure. Zhou Yi said, then wait for me to bring my troops back first. Amicham. Then, Zhou Zhou ended the telepathic conversation with Zhou 1. After Zhou Zhou ended the call, he thought for a while before deciding not to think too much about it. Instead, he began to form the heaven's aversion seal in his hand and used the eye of the heaven's anger to continue searching for his target. The next day, in the reincarnation sacred palace, Zhou Zhou opened his eyes and could sense it. It was Bai Yun who had brought her troops back. He had two thoughts. Most of his divine thoughts were still in his main body as he continued to use the eye of the heaven's anger. As for the other small portion of divine sense, it entered Zhou Wen's consciousness and took over his divine body. Outside the city gate in the Blazing Sun Kingdom, Zhou Wen, whose divine body had been taken over, had a dazed look in his eyes before returning to normal. He heard Bai Yun's respectful voice. "Your Majesty, I'll first bring the soldiers to the Triumphal Arch, then go to Lord Mugu to clean up the ranchland plain. After collecting all the information about their advancement, I'll report to you with the war general." Bai Yun said respectfully. "Sure." Zhou Wen, no, Zhou Zhou, nodded. Then, he said. "Ask them to rest for 2 hours. After 2 hours, you will set off again. First, conquer the 3 intermediate-grade Crimson Kingdoms under the Crimson Overlord's command around our territory. Then, go and hunt the heavenly aversion target. As long as he conquered 3 more ultimate Crimson Kingdoms under the command of the Crimson Overlord, Zhou Zhou would fulfill all the conditions to upgrade the Blazing Sun Kingdom to an Advanced Kingdom and officially upgrade the Blazing Sun Kingdom to an Advanced Kingdom. Actually, he still needed to conquer 2 intermediate kingdoms that were not under the command of the Crimson Overlord. However, when they were expanding their territory some time ago, Bai Yun and the rest had conquered 3 intermediate kingdoms that were not under the command of the Crimson Overlord. This left only one condition for the Blazing Sun Kingdom to advance to an Advanced Kingdom. "Yes, Your Majesty," Bai Yun said respectfully. In fact, they had already rested for the night yesterday and did not feel tired. They could have set off immediately after cleaning up the ranchland plain. However, resting for another 2 hours could also improve his condition. Therefore, he thought for a moment and didn't say anything else. Zhou Zhou nodded and walked into the capital alone. He used illusionary spells to change his appearance into that of an ordinary scholar as he walked. It would take some time for Bai Yun and the rest to clean up the ranchland plain. During this period of time, he might as well change his appearance and take a stroll around the capital in different identities. During this period of time, he had led troops into battle, ascended to godhood, and comprehended laws. He was occupied with all sorts of matters. Now, as he walked on the thoroughfares of the capital and gazed upon the various countenances of the subjects on either side of the road, as well as the way they were fleeing for their lives, their families, themselves, and their future, Zhou Zhou suddenly came to the realization that it had been a long time since he had taken a closer look at the lands and subjects that he had guarded with all his might. Chapter 977 Experience. The ultimate end of civilization, one-person civilization. I'm selling Lingji flour pancakes, high-quality Lingji flour pancakes. Customers, take a look. This taste, this pattern, it's rarely seen in the entire Blazing Sun Kingdom. Have a taste, try it for free. Opening for business. Opening for business. I, the city lord of Wani Merchant, buy travel clothes, buy matching travel suits, and even give local travel guides. The Thousand Realm Tourism Club next door is our business partner. It operates honestly and doesn't deceive anyone. The Nine Blades Divine Weapon Shop has opened its membership area. Welcome to the registration. Customers who enroll as members can get a 20% discount on customized new weapons in the future. Repairing weapons will cost half the price. As if I would believe you. Don't raise the price first and lower it later. Disgusting. The New Wind location has launched a new outfit, New Wind 76. This new set of clothes has improved the flying function of this outfit. It can fly higher, faster, and further. The energy usage is also 6% lower than the 75 model. Furthermore, The safety has been greatly improved. We also provide unexpected rescue functions. We guarantee that we will not have to worry about traveling. Everyone is welcome to purchase it. The Super God Game Club is looking for a professional chef. The minimum requirement is an extraordinary tier chef. It's best if you're good at making cerulean planet ingredients. We offer good treatment. All old masters are welcome to apply. Zhou suddenly saw a tall building as he walked. The name of this building was Mixed Virtual Reality Experience World. Zhou raised his eyebrows and walked in. As soon as he entered the first floor, he saw a silver robot floating about 50 centimeters above the ground. It quickly noticed Zhou and flew in front of him at a comfortable speed. "Excuse me, this is the guidance robot, 7. Do you want to experience mixed virtual reality?" it asked. "Yes." Zhou nodded and asked with a smile, "What services do you have here?" Mixed virtual reality is a great invention. There will be countless services in the future because of it. Currently, we have only opened 6 functional experience areas for the time being. The first functional experience area is the Gaming World Experience Area. You can enter an independent gaming world. You don't have to wear any equipment to experience all kinds of incomparably realistic gaming world experiences. The second functional experience area is the Combat Profession Growth Experience Area. You can enter an independent combat world and receive the full guidance of the Combat Mentor NPC. Our Combat Mentor NPC can help you quickly improve your combat skills through the virtual reality battlefield and virtual reality enemies without hurting you. The combat skill experience you can obtain can be perfectly replicated in the real world. The third functional experience area is the Life Profession Growth Experience Area. You can enter an independent world of lifestyle professionals. This world is made up of 236,727,688 legendary tier lifestyle professional NPCs. There are more than 1.8 billion exclusive workplaces for lifestyle professionals to improve their profession level, such as the Blacksmith Inheritance Tower, the Elemental Field Reaction Area, the Large Particle Collision Laboratory, the Beast Taming Area, the Astronomical Area, the Materials Analysis Area, the Cooking Hall, and so on. You can apply for any legendary tier life profession NPC to guide you personally for free. You can increase the level of your life profession that you want to improve. Or you can enter a place suitable for you to increase the level of your life profession and train your life profession alone. Temporary attributes are provided for free in both venues. The attribute panel can show that you currently have professional abilities and will use words, images, and telepathy to convey which of the professional skills you have mastered have reached the qualified level of professionals of the same level, and which skills have not reached the qualified level of professionals of the same level. The attribute panel will search for similar but more outstanding examples according to the ultimate database. From there, it will take advantage of your strengths to complement your weaknesses and personally guide your professional skill level, allowing your professional skill level to steadily increase. Furthermore, the attribute panel will also give a specific implementation plan for the subsequent maintenance of proficiency. It will ensure that your professional skill level will only increase and not decrease. The fourth functional experience area is the Virtual Lord Continent Strife Zones. You can enter a Virtual Lord Continent world and become a Lord with a random Lord talent. Then, you can compete with the Virtual Scarlet Lord faction and the Virtual Local Lord faction for the title of Lord of all races. The fifth functional experience area is the Heavenly Virtual Tourism World. You can travel to the myriad worlds in our world. The sixth functional experience area is the Heavenly Gourmet World. You can sample the different delicacies of various worlds in our world area. The beautiful scenery and delicacies of the last 2 world zones were 100% replicated according to the inheritance records of the Myriad Races Inheritance Tower established by His Majesty. I guarantee that they won't be inferior to the scenery and sample of the original world. The experience price of each world zone is 1 extraordinary tier mist core per day. Which world zone do you want to experience? The robot asked. The Life Profession Growth Experience Area. Zhou pondered for a few seconds and said. In terms of combat, he, who sat on the throne of the king, didn't lack experience in this aspect at all. On the other hand, he seldom dabbled in life professions. Now, he wanted to try something new and experience this virtual hybrid reality technology. Will do. Seven nodded and said to the air in front of him, please open the Life Profession Growth Experience Area. Approval requested. A gentle female voice sounded from the robot. The next second, a door of light made of silver data appeared in front of Zhou. Customer, please enter. The robot said. Zhou nodded and walked in. More than an hour later, Zhou walked out of the door of light in surprise. Customer, how was the experience? Can you give us a 5-star review? When Zhou heard this, he looked at the white platinum tier intermediate grade puppeteer option that appeared out of thin air in his life profession column. In the end, he nodded readily. Downstairs in the mixed virtual reality experience world. Zhou looked at the building and his expression became more and more emotional. This is a mixed virtual reality technology with a database. Even though my comprehension potential has already reached the limit of the world, or even surpassed it, however, to be able to raise a life profession that I've never come into contact with to the white platinum tier intermediate grade in more than an hour, I still think it's a little ridiculous. And the ultimate database has unlimited growth potential. When I was leveling up the puppeteer life profession, there were only 123,777 learning groups in the database, of which, only more than 84,000 were black iron tier to white platinum tier intermediate grade. If the number of people in this learning group can increase by 100 or 1,000 times, my improvement speed will probably be even faster. Perhaps in less than an hour, I can become a diamond tier or extraordinary tier puppeteer or even higher. As long as there are enough comparative study groups, perhaps ordinary people can reach my level. Even the stats interface can rely on so many professionals to summarize a perfect puppeteer's career path. To summarize the life experiences of billions of life forms to achieve a perfect professional growth. Generation after generation after generation of stronger professionals. The ultimate end of civilization is a one-person civilization. After experiencing the experience just now, Zhou's mind was filled with endless thoughts about civilization. After a long time, only then did he smile and shake his head. He left this place and returned to the divine kingdom. Chapter 978 War Summary. 80 billion soldiers. Bai Yun stood respectfully in front of His Highness in the Divine Kingdom's main hall. Zhou looked at the war data projection in front of him. From yesterday to today, even though Bai Yun and the other soldiers and god spirits had only fought with the people of foreign races for one morning, they had wiped out a total of 48 billion people of foreign races and 35 god spirits in this short morning. The war resources left behind by these enemies and their combat items were enhanced by the title of King of Loots and the Strongest Lord. They obtained a total of more than 998,800,000 legendary tier mist cores, more than 6,466,000,000 epic tier mist cores, more than 92,012,000 extraordinary tier mist cores, more than 1,350,600,000 diamond tier mist cores, more than 2,050,077,000,000 white platinum tier mist cores, more than 2,860,077,000,000 yellow gold tier mist cores, more than 8,860,500,000,000 white silver tier mist cores, and 8 billion green bronze tier bronze mist cores. There were over 1,030,000,000,000 skill books and 8,600,000,006,000 pieces of equipment. B0XO. The basic materials were about 350,000 trillion units. More than 10,350,000,000 units of basic elemental gemstones. More than 480 million units of thunder element gems. 310 million units of life elemental gems. 350 million units of Death Elemental Gems. 7,012,000,000 Origin Crystals. 150,500,000 Green Bronze Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments. 181,650 Holy Spirit Tier Faith Divine Crystals. More than 230 million units of Divine Crystals from low tier to high tier deity level. 100 True God Tier Elementary Grade Divine Crystals. More than 12 million low-level to high-tier deity-level divine artifacts. 36 True God-tier divine artifacts. There was also a total of about 5 million divine spark fragments, God-tier medicinal herbs, God-tier ingredients, God-tier ores, God-tier blueprints, and other treasures. Zhou nodded slightly after reading this part of the summary. Even though Bai Yun and the others did not kill as many enemies as they did the day before yesterday, in terms of the total number of loots, they had more than the day before yesterday, and the quality was also higher. This meant that the strength of the soldiers and god spirits sent by the people of foreign races yesterday morning exceeded that of the day before yesterday. However, it was a pity that in the face of the terrifying military strength and combat strength of his soldiers and god spirits, they could only be defeated. I've killed more than 100 billion soldiers from these people of foreign races after 3 days of war. This should reduce a portion of their strength and racial heritage. This way, when I lead my troops to attack them in the future, it should be easier. Zhou thought. Then, his gaze landed on the Life Elemental Gems and Death Elemental Gems. Another third of the upgrade requirements have been met. With another harvest like this, I can increase the level of my territory. He nodded in satisfaction. Then, Zhou looked at the God Spirit list, the Insight Defection list, and the Military Strength list. He first looked at the list of God Spirits. And now, the 10 Scarlet God Spirits imprisoned in the 9 Nether Fiend Celestial Prison had already been Insight Defection by all the members of the Star Alliance. Moreover, after the battle yesterday morning, another 15 legendary tier advanced grade soldiers advanced to the lower realm. This also brought the number of god spirits under Zhou's command to 185. He fell into deep pondered when he saw this result. The number of new god spirits has nearly doubled compared to yesterday. This should have the function of increasing the probability of becoming a god with the ice spirit Sacred Heart. Zhou speculated. A smile appeared on his face. This race's divine artifact was really not bad since it had already begun to take effect as soon as he obtained it. Then, he gazed at the Insight Defection list. First of all, Zhou had used the Insight Defection twice in his place on the battlefield yesterday. Moreover, it was against 2 people of foreign races with a body mass of 5 billion. In the end, these 2 Insight Defections directly led Zhou to 4,216,827,658 people of foreign races soldiers. As for the other group of Star Alliance masters who did not obtain the quota for the Insight Defection, they had also given Zhou 1,056,008,602 people of foreign race soldiers after following the army to participate in the war with the foreign races today. The total number of soldiers under Zhou's command was now 57,317,897,04 soldiers. Including the Star Alliance's current total of 13,782,000,000 soldiers, the total number of troops under Zhou's command had already reached an astonishing 71 billion soldiers. Among the troops under his command, excluding the Star Alliance, there were 1,096,854,427 Black Iron Tier soldiers, 5,688,083,615 Green Bronze Tier soldiers, 20,890,600,000 White Silver Tier soldiers, 10,232,900,790 Yellow Gold Tier soldiers, 7,987,022,600 White Platinum Tier soldiers, 5,969,650 Diamond Tier soldiers, 4,136,800,000 Extraordinary Tier soldiers, 1,312,500,000 epic tier soldiers and 4,023,982 legendary tier soldiers. As for the god spirits under him, after today's battle, their strength had also increased astonishingly. Among them, Wuxia, Qi Xiantian, and Yuan Song had advanced to high-tier deity-level elementary grade. Vicky, Bai Yun, Wu Xian, Feng Luo, Suan, and Luo Xing had all advanced to the mid-tier deity-level intermediate grade. The strength of the other god spirits had also increased to a certain extent. Zhou Zhou tapped his right hand gently after he finished reading and the war data projection in front of him dissipated. Your Majesty, this is the spoils of war from the Ranchland Plain today. When Bai Yun saw this scene, she took the initiative to hand a silver ring to Zhou Zhou. Zhou Zhou agreed and brought the ring to the gate of summoning with Bai Yi. In front of the gate of summoning, Zhou Zhou stood there and threw all 13.5 billion yellow talisman Dao soldier recruitment books and 3.75 trillion violent storm spirit recruitment books into the spatial ring. Then, he summoned for the 20 empty galaxy as usual and made all the soldiers appear in the inner world of the galaxy. Finally, he used 100 epic tier mist cores to summon all the recruits at once. The next second, the 20 galaxy spaceships were packed to the brim with 17.25 billion soldiers. The number of soldiers under my command is now 74,567,897.04. Plus the Star Alliance's 13,782 billion. The total number of soldiers I can lead has already reached more than 88.3 billion. Zhou Zhou agreed in his heart. This way, the total number of soldiers under his command would officially exceed 100 billion tomorrow. 100 billion soldiers. This number was already equivalent to 1/5 of the soldiers that Uriel had brought. In addition, the soldiers under Zhou Zhou were either kingdom-level soldiers or empire-level soldiers. They didn't even have a high-level soldier type that was one level lower. This made their individual combat power far exceed that of soldiers of the same level. If they were to fight against the 500 billion people of foreign races under Uriel's command, as long as the gods on Uriel's side did not make a move, Zhou Zhou's side might even have a chance of winning. Unfortunately, the other party's god spirit would definitely make a move. Otherwise, Zhou Zhou might have brought these soldiers to destroy Uriel and the others. As for now, it was better to lay low and develop for a while. Then, he handed these recruits to Bai Yun to arrange, and began to summon the subjects of today's Gate of Summoning. Chapter 979 Three Goods. Bloodline of the Chaos God's Race. 9 Heavens Technique. Mineral Contract. Zhou Zhou called out silently in his heart. The following second, with the disappearance of the 100 epic tier mist cores, the entire Gate of Summoning flashed with white light. Then, 44,000 new subjects appeared in the open space in front of the Gate of Summoning. Zhou Zhou glanced at the new subjects. What disappointed him was that none of the professionals summoned this time were rare profession owners worth paying attention to. It seems that the owner of a rare profession can't be summoned every time. Zhou Zhou thought. He was not very disappointed. The subjects summoned by the Gate of Summoning every day were just icing on the cake for Zhou Zhou after all. It was naturally better to have it, but it didn't matter if he didn't have it. Then, he strolled to the Lord's shop. "Greetings, Your Majesty," Zhou Qingmin said respectfully. When Zhou Zhou heard this, he sized him up carefully. When he realized that he really did not discover his identity, he could not help but feel a little emotional. This talent, doppelganger technique, was really not bad. Even Zhou Qingmin, a living being created by his Lord Talent, could not tell that he had actually come with a clone and not his main body. Of course, it was indeed Zhou Zhou's will that controlled this Zhou 1 clone. "Bring out today's merchandise." Zhou Zhou chuckled. "Yes, Your Majesty." Zhou Qingmin took out 3 golden boxes from under the counter and placed them on the counter. Zhou Zhou looked over subsequent to he opened them one by one. Zhou Zhou raised his eyebrows when he saw the initial item. This was because it was actually a chaotic-colored heart that emitted a chaotic aura. The surface of the heart was still circulating with the aura of the chaotic bloodline. Finally, this merchandise has arrived. When Zhou Zhou saw this item, he could not help but sigh. This item was none other than the Chaos Beast. No, it should be said that it was the bloodline of the Chaos God's race. Bloodline name, Chaos God's race bloodline, bloodline level, true God tier advanced grade, bloodline effect, the user can obtain the bloodline of the original spirit race after absorbing it. After fusing with this bloodline, the user will gradually awaken the bloodline ability of the original spirit race during their growth. Zhou Zhou looked at the heart that was circulating with a chaotic aura and recalled the inherited memories of the Chaos Human bloodline. In fact, when the Chaos Humans were at their peak, when the underage Chaos Humans were about to reach adulthood, they needed to carry out a hunting activity and complete their coming-of-age ceremony. Only then could they truly be considered an adult Chaos Human who could take charge. And the target of this hunting activity was the Chaos Beast. It's time for me, a Chaos Human, to become an adult. Zhou Zhou looked at the Chaos God's race bloodline and smiled. He wasn't in a hurry to immediately buy. Instead, he looked at the other 2 items. The second item was a law skill book called the 9 Heavens Technique. Law skill name, 9 Heavens Technique, law skill quality, enhanceable, true God tier advanced grade, introduction to law skills, a secret skill of flying laws mastered by the bloodline descendants of the Chaos God clan Kuanping, which can grow up to the true God tier advanced grade. True God tier Kuanping once used this 9 Heavens Technique. With a flap of his wings, the 9 worlds passed in an instant. This technique was also known as the number 1 flying nomological secret technique of the Chaos God's race. Zhou Zhou stroked his chin subsequent to reading it. A descendant of the Kuanping bloodline. He thought about it and quickly remembered that when he had previously instigated the Chaos God's race under the Great One Lord in the divine battlefield, there was indeed a Chaos God's race member who looked like a fish and a bird. So, he was the descendant of the Kuanping true God tier. Not bad, not bad. I've already received your 9 Heavens Technique. This king will definitely reward you well when you return to the Blazing Sun Kingdom one day. Zhou Zhou thought happily. He then looked at the last item. The last item was a contract. Treasure name, mineral contract, mineral space elemental gem mine, treasure grade, low tier deity level, treasure effect. After signing the deed, the owner will have a miniature iron ore with a resource reserve of 100,000 tons. Treasure description. A treasure that can make mineral resources appear out of thin air in the territory. Mineral contract. Zhou Zhou was not surprised. Previously, he had already obtained many such contracts when he opened the regional treasure chest. They were widely distributed throughout the territory of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. What surprised him was the type of mineral. Spatial elemental gem mine. Zhou Zhou looked at the contract and stroked his chin. According to the Yellow Emperor and the others, this is a necessary upgrade resource for an Empire-level lord to upgrade their territory. I'm about to advance to an advanced kingdom. After that, he'll have to prepare the resources to advance to a junior empire. This spatial elemental gem mine came at the right time. After a lord's faction rose from a kingdom to an empire, what they needed were not life elemental gems or death elemental gems, but the even rarer time and space elemental gems. The latter was harder to collect than the former, and the area of production was extremely rare. Typically, only god spirits had the ability and channels to collect 2 types of gem resources. Zhou Zhou was still thinking about what to do when he needed these 2 types of gems to upgrade his territory in the future. With the bloodline inheritance he currently grasped, he did have some means of obtaining it, but he had to incur a cost and might even encounter some danger. He didn't expect to suddenly give him a mini spatial elemental gem mine for free today. It was a pleasant surprise. If there are no surprises, the bloodline of the Chaos God's race, the secret technique of the Nine Heavens technique, and this miniature spatial elemental gem mine should have been provided by that descendant of the Kuan Peng's bloodline. The bloodline of the Chaos God's race, the secret technique of the laws of the Nine Heavens, and this miniature spatial elemental gem mine should have been provided by that descendant of the Kuan Peng's bloodline. Zhou Zhou sighed. He remembered that the descendant of the Kuan Peng's bloodline seemed to only be at the extraordinary tier level at that time. An extraordinary tier life form could master true god tier nomological secret techniques and mineral resources that even an empire-level lord faction could not wish for. This was simply unimaginable for living beings from other ordinary races. However, to top bloodline life forms like the Chaos God's race, the Shepherd's God race, and the original Spirit race, this was probably an extremely ordinary matter. He shook his head and stopped thinking about it. He asked, "How many mist cores do these three goods cost?" Zhou Zhou asked. The bloodline of a true god tier advanced grade Chaos God is worth 20,000 legendary tier mist cores. The growth limit is a true god advanced grade nomological secret technique, the Nine Heavens technique. It's worth 15,000 legendary tier mist cores. Low tier deity level elementary grade mineral deed, miniature spatial elemental gem mineral, worth 100 legendary tier mist cores. Zhou Qingmin said. "I'll buy it." Zhou Zhou said devoid of hesitation. Then, he took out 35,100 legendary tier mist cores and handed them to the other party. "Thank you for your business." Zhou Qingmin packed up the goods and handed them to Zhou Zhou as he said with a smile. After Zhou Zhou took it, he immediately turned around and went to play games. Zhou Zhou did not say anything else and returned to his divine kingdom subsequent to he received the goods. Then, he took out the Chaos God bloodline from the three goods and fused it into his Chaos Human bloodline. Chapter 980 Absorbing the Chaos God's Race Bloodline. High-tier deity-level elementary grade Chaos Human bloodline. In terms of absorbing bloodlines, Zhou Zhou's main body naturally absorbed them. After Zhou Zhou's main body absorbed the Chaos God's race bloodline, he immediately felt his heart beat faster. His heart beat faster and faster, making him seem like an engine that was constantly increasing the horsepower. His body temperature also rapidly rose. What was weird was that, Zhou Zhou felt even calmer in this state. This contradictory yet harmonious state of him made him enter an extremely mysterious state. In this state, he felt that he had a very clear perception of all the laws in the world. It was at least 10 times stronger than before he entered this state. He could even clearly comprehend the chaos origin laws above the myriad laws through this state. As Zhou Zhou immersed himself in his own state, he seemed to have realized something. It turned out that absorbing the Chaos Beast's bloodline was actually so beneficial to the Chaos Humans. It could actually allow the Chaos Humans to better comprehend the Chaos laws. One had to know that the upper limit of the Chaos law was extremely high. Even if it was inferior to the Lord's law, it was not much different. A deity who walked the path of the Chaos nomological laws had a chance of becoming an existence at the Master God tier, Supreme God realm, or even willpower level in the future. No wonder the Chaos Humans had existed for so many years and still maintained this coming-of-age ceremony until their demise. So this was the hope for the Chaos Humans to have a transcendent expert. Apart from allowing him to gain a clearer understanding of the myriad laws and the laws of chaos, Zhou Zhou could also sense that his chaos sacred body was beginning to transform at an exaggerated speed with the help of the Chaos God's race bloodline. His physical body would become stronger, his physical defense would be higher, and his physical body would recover faster. He could see further, hear more clearly, smell more carefully, taste more sensitive, touch more sensitive, and even his intuition had been strengthened by more than one level. As for the regeneration of severed limbs, blood rebirth, and other physical divine powers, they were as simple as a child's play to him. In addition, there were endless mysteries of the physical body hidden in his holy body, waiting for him to unearth them. Zhou Zhou exclaimed in his heart. As expected of one of the advantages of the two races that the Chaos Beast was most proud of. The endless heavens and the physical body were number one. It was indeed ridiculously strong. At this moment, he suddenly felt something, and his attention immediately fell on his divine spark space. The divine spark space was his sea of consciousness before he became a god spirit. It was where his soul once rested. After becoming a god spirit, his sea of consciousness became a divine spark space that accommodated both the divine spark and the soul. Originally, it was like this. However, at this moment, Zhou Zhou actually watched helplessly as a second divine spark slowly condensed in his divine spark space. This divine spark was completely disordered and emitted the aura of the chaotic laws. It was the chaotic divine vessel. Chaotic divine vessel, Zhou Zhou looked at the divine spark and pondered. If the body of the Chaos Gods race was said to be the second most prided talent of their race, then, the chaotic divine vessel was the ethnic talent that the Chaos Beast was most proud of. There was no other. Why did the Chaos Gods race call themselves the Chaos Gods race? It was because the Chaos Gods race was born with an illusory chaotic divine vessel. This also meant that as long as they reached the legendary tier advanced grade in the future and satisfied the promotion energy requirements, they would be able to become a god spirit 100%. They would not even have the bottleneck to become a god spirit. 100% chance of becoming a god. It was the reason why the Chaos Gods race was called the God race. Even the original spirit race, the Shepherd's God race, and the Myriad Spirit race did not have such a ridiculously powerful racial advantage. There was also a small number of clansmen who could not become gods in their lives. Even if it was only a small portion, it did exist. As for the Chaos Gods race, as long as they did not die midway, they would definitely become gods in the future. As for whether he wanted to comprehend law skills, this was naturally necessary. However, the Chaos Gods race was born with a chaotic divine vessel. It was equivalent to having a miniature chaotic law origin in their bodies. The Chaos Gods race could understand any nomological path they wanted from the chaos divine spark in their bodies. If his comprehension potential was higher, he could directly understand the chaotic laws. And now, I also have this chaotic divine vessel. Zhou Zhou sighed. No wonder the Chaos Humans could defeat the Chaos Beasts back then. What I have, you don't have, but what you have, I can have. What was the point of fighting then? Then, he looked at the information regarding the Chaos Human bloodline that had just appeared in front of him. You have absorbed one portion of Chaos God's race bloodline, true God tier advanced grade. Your Chaos Human bloodline has unearthed more potential and advanced to the high-tier deity-level elementary grade. Your six senses powers have been greatly enhanced. Your parapsychic ability has been greatly enhanced. You have awakened a true God-tier advanced grade, enhanceable Chaos Human race talent, Chaos God body talent. You have awakened the true God-tier advanced grade, enhanceable race talent of the Chaos Gods race, Chaotic Divine Vessel. You have awakened the true God-tier advanced grade, enhanceable race talent of the Chaos Gods race, Chaotic Divine Vessel. You have grasped the Chaos Gods race's common sense inheritance. You have grasped the secret inheritance of the Chaos Gods race. Congratulations, you have completed the adulthood ceremony of the chaotic human race. The will of chaos, which has fallen for countless years, has sensed your existence and sent you an ancient guidance. You have comprehended the incomplete will condensation technique. Will divine transformation realm, after reading this information, Zhou Zhou raised his eyebrows slightly. Good God! Just the bloodline of a true God-tier advanced grade Chaos God had actually raised his Chaos Human race bloodline by a large level, from a mid-tier deity-level elementary grade to a high-tier deity-level elementary grade. Back then, the bloodline of the first demon Deep Abyss, who was an advanced grade Master God tier, had only raised his Chaos Human bloodline from low-tier deity-level elementary grade to a level infinitely close to the mid-tier deity-level elementary grade. He had not even broken through to the mid-tier deity level. And now, the Chaos God's race bloodline had actually provided he with so much bloodline power. It far exceeded the bloodline enhancement at the Master God tier advanced grade bloodline had brought him. The Chaos Beast bloodline is indeed extremely compatible with my Chaos Human bloodline. Zhou thought. Then, he looked at the other awakened innate abilities. Race talent name, Chaotic God body, talent level, True God tier advanced grade, enhanceable, talent description. After the Chaos Humans complete their coming-of-age ceremony, his body will become indestructible, especially after advancing to the God Spirit realm. At the same level, he will even be comparable to a defensive divine artifact of the same level. Your chaotic divine body can make it easier for you to understand thousands of principles or even more profound laws of the chaos. The chaotic human race with the chaotic divine body is easier to become a God spirit among the countless races and life forms. Chapter 981 Chaotic Divine Vessel. Chaos will Condensation Technique. Race talent name, Chaotic Divine Vessel, talent level, True God tier advanced grade, enhanceable, talent description. Ever since you were born, your body has been nurtured with a chaotic divine spark. With the chaotic divine vessel, one could begin to comprehend and use the power of various nomological laws from the weakest point. Moreover, when one becomes a God spirit, one could also rely on the chaotic divine vessel to 100% become a God spirit without the risk of failure. Your talent in the law of chaos has increased greatly. Race talent name, Kuan Ping True Body, talent level, True God tier advanced grade, enhanceable, talent description. You can turn into the Chaos God's race, Kuan Ping through your bloodline atavism. From there, you will have all the bloodline talents of the Kuan Ping True God tier as well as the law skills that he has mastered. Zhou nodded slightly when he saw the last Kuan Ping True Body. Even though this Chaos God's race bloodline had only awakened 3 innate abilities for him, just this last Kuan Ping True Body was equivalent to having countless abilities. As for the Chaotic Divine Body and Chaotic Divine Vessel, they were innate abilities with unlimited potential. Just these 3 abilities alone are enough to absorb the Chaos God's race bloodline. Zhou sighed. Then, it was naturally the Chaos God's race's common sense inheritance and the Chaos God's race's secret inheritance. He had only glanced through the inheritance of the Chaos God's race. However, after a cursory glance, he really discovered an extremely important piece of legacy information. In the Supreme Mystic Realm, the ruins of chaos, there's a small group of chaos humans who are believed to be alive. Zhou frowned. Zhou naturally knew that he was not the only one left of the chaos humans. However, he had never known where the remaining chaos humans were. This was not documented in his chaos human bloodline inheritance. Originally, he thought that he would have to slowly search in the future to find his fellow chaos humans. He did not expect to find the whereabouts of the chaos human race from the Chaos God's race's bloodline inheritance. Even if it was only a suspicion, it was still hope. The one who knows himself best is still the enemy. Zhou thought. He had to pay attention to where this chaotic ruins was in the future. However, since it was a supreme mystic realm, there was a high chance that it was not in a specific universe, but in the chaotic void outside the universe. The chaotic void was endless and had been expanding infinitely. Even Supreme God Realm experts did not know where the end of the chaotic void was, let alone find a lonely Supreme Mystic Realm. Zhou felt that it would be very difficult to find it alone. Fortunately, he still had the Bodhi Supreme as a secondary plan, so he was not too worried. Then, his gaze landed on the final inheritance of the Chaos God's race. The chaos will condensation technique, and it's a chaos will condensation technique that leads straight to the will divine transformation realm. Zhou didn't have much of an expression on his face. In that case, I have two will condensation techniques at the will divine transformation realm. One belongs to the abyss will, and the other belongs to the chaos will. Dual cultivation. Or just focusing on one of them. Zhou's expression gradually turned serious. This was no small matter. It was a matter that concerned his future. He could not be careless. He thought for a moment and first searched through the different bloodline inheritances in his mind. He realized that there were no inheritances related to willpower cultivation. He didn't even mention it. He thought for a moment and first searched through the different bloodline inheritances in his mind. He realized that there were no inheritances related to willpower cultivation. He didn't even mention it. Yes, willpower was already an ability that only Master God tier could master, and will divine transformation realm was an ability that only Supreme God realm experts could begin to master. This kind of high-end ability, let alone ordinary top races. Even the top civilizations like the original spirit race, the chaos gods race, and the shepherd's god race probably had very few legacies in this aspect. Zhou pondered for a few seconds and decisively took out the Bodhi Supreme to ask the answer to this question. This question requires an ordinary question to be answered once. Bodhi Supreme said lazily. It's only the number of times you can answer ordinary questions. Zhou was a little surprised. He thought that such questions that involved one's will needed to be answered at least once by an official question. Bodhi Supreme seemed to have noticed Zhou's confusion and explained, because the answer I give can't really help you much. Be it the chaos will or the abyss will, before you reach the level of will, you can actually cultivate them alone or at the same time. Both have their own benefits. Single cultivation advances quickly, but the upper limit is not high. If you cultivate it at the same time, it's easy for different wills to conflict with each other. Once it's an actual conflict crisis, it's very likely that you won't be able to stop the crisis from erupting, and you'll be in danger of dying. My suggestion is, cultivate the chaos will first. At the same time, collect the will inheritances of other wills. My suggestion is, cultivate the chaos will alone first. At the same time, collect the will inheritances of other wills. Moreover, you have the foundation of the chaos will, and it has already died for numerous years. In the future, even if you can't condense your own exclusive will, you might be able to take the position of the chaos will back then and inherit its former glory. That won't be inferior to a will like the abyss will. In fact, it might even reach the heights of the supreme will and the crimson overlord in the future. Condense my will, Zhou was deep in thought. Don't think about it. You're just a super junior in the will-like light realm. Why are you thinking so far ahead? Bodhi Supreme saw that he was thinking very seriously and immediately said with disdain. You're right. Zhou scratched his head. He was indeed biting off more than he could chew. However, he had potential, comprehension ability, and a certain amount of willpower experience. In the future, he might really be able to reach the heights of an existence like the Supreme Will. Therefore, he still had to be careful on the path of condensing his exclusive willpower in the future. Bodhi Supreme could tell at a glance that Zhou was biting off more than he could chew. However, he did not say anything else. To be able to develop to this extent, Zhou must be an ambitious person. It was too normal for him to have plans for the future. Then he'll listen to you. He'll first switch to the chaos will and then cultivate the chaos will alone. At the same time, he'll pay attention to collecting the will inheritances of other wills. Zhou quickly made a decision. Then, he chatted with Bodhi Supreme about some questions regarding willpower. Only when he had nothing else to ask did he put away Bodhi Supreme. Then, he chatted with Bodhi Supreme about some questions regarding willpower. Only when he had nothing else to ask did he put away Bodhi Supreme. It was the Wind God Source embryo that he had obtained from the new Wind Demon Kingdom. This Wind God Source embryo contained a sleeping true God-tier dragon soul. After Zhou Zhou obtained it, he had been feeding it divine crystals, hoping that it would hatch one day. At that moment, Zhou Zhou's eyes lit up as he looked at the cracks on the surface of the Wind God Source embryo that were emitting azure and silver-white light. Was it about to hatch? Chapter 982 Letter of Surrender. Zhou Zhou looked at the Wind God Source embryo in front of him. He could sense that the true God-tier dragon soul in the Wind God Source embryo had already awakened. It was eager to try and break through the outer shell of the origin crystal. He could sense that the true God-tier dragon soul in the Wind God Source embryo had already awakened. It was eager to try and break through the outer shell of the origin crystal. Zhou Zhou clicked his tongue in wonder. Following that, he sent a portion of his will to Zhou Wan, allowing him to follow Bai Yun and the others out to battle. He also took out a true God-tier elementary grade divine crystals and began feeding the Wind God Source embryo. True God-tier divine crystals were very beneficial to the dragon soul in the Wind God Source embryo. Not only could it greatly increase the speed at which the other party broke out of its shell, but it could also increase the other party's strength when it was born. If I feed it enough true God-tier divine crystals, perhaps I can make this dragon soul, which is already at the true God tier, reach the true God realm at birth. As he watched the Wind God Source embryo absorb the true God tier divine crystals, a smile appeared on his face. Taking advantage of this free time, Zhou Zhou took out the Law Skill Book, 9 Heavens Technique, and chose to use it. After mastering the Chaos God's Race's number 1 Flying Nomological Secret Technique, Zhou Zhou took out the Mineral Land Deed, the miniature spatial elemental gem mine. He chose to use it and placed it on a desolate land not far from the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Then, he told Zheng Yuanqi the location of the mineral mine and asked he to send someone to mine it. Then, when he looked at the Wind God Source embryo again, he realized that the true God-tier elementary grade divine crystals that he had given him previously had been completely absorbed by the egg. Zhou Zhou was stunned for a moment before he laughed out loud. Okay. The absorption is getting better and better. Zhou Zhou laughed out loud. The faster it was absorbed, the higher the life potential in the Wind God Source embryo and the stronger it was when it was born. How could Zhou Zhou not be happy about such a good thing? He generously took out another true God elementary grade divine crystal and placed it on the surface of the Wind God Source embryo. He allowed the other party to attach the divine crystal to the surface of the eggshell and crazily absorb the true God-tier energy inside. Perhaps this little fellow will be a pet that's not inferior to Nazario when it's born. Zhou Zhou looked at the Wind God Source embryo with hope. At the same time, 10 of millions of kilometers away from the Blazing Sun capital, within the spatial mezzanine, a total of 100 galaxy ships were flying at full speed. Galaxy number 1. In the captain's room, Zhou Wan, or rather, Zhou Wan, who was possessed by Zhou Zhou's will, was currently looking at the map projection in front of him. This map projection covered a terrifying area of 1 trillion square kilometers. It even included a portion of the territory of a Divine Kingdom Lord faction called the Profound Arkansas. The map that involved such a large area was actually not drawn by the Heavenly Map Army led by Wu Tuesday currently. Wu Tu and the others did plan to draw a map of the entire high continent. However, this grand plan had just begun. Even with the map cheat, the Time World, Wu Tu and the others had only completed less than 1 in 10 million maps of the entire continent. It was obvious that this was a big plan with a long way to go. As for the map projection in front of him, it came from a map that the mysterious merchant had accidentally obtained through his treasure hunting ability during a business trip. Zhou Zhou was very happy when he received the map. With this map, it would be much more convenient for them to do war strategies in the high continent in the future. Like now, for example, there were a total of 216 red light spots distributed unevenly on the huge map. These red light spots were the hunting targets that Zhou Zhou had found through the Eye of the Heaven's anger. If it was the previous map, it would definitely not be possible. What to do? The range of coverage was not big enough. Your Majesty, we are 1 minute and 12 seconds away from our first target, the Skull Crusher Demon God. In addition, the current location of the Skull Crusher Demon God is an intermediate-grade Crimson Kingdom, and it's not far from our territory. Should we attack while we're at it? Bai Yun came to Zhou Zhou and reported. Zhou Zhou thought for a moment and said, we can take it down and then take down the 2 intermediate-grade Crimson Kingdoms around the Blazing Sun Kingdom's territory to fulfill the requirements for the kingdom to advance to an advanced kingdom. After doing this, he'll hunt down the targets of the Eye of the Heaven's anger one by one. After killing 20 targets of the Eye of the Heaven's anger, he'll conquer those kingdom factions that have sent letters of surrender. By the way, how's the persuasion letter going? Zhou Zhou asked again. This morning, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has already sent a letter of surrender to the 161 kingdom-level factions of the people of foreign races who had previously stopped the humans from retreating to the primordial world. There are also 32 kingdom-level lord factions of the people of foreign races who are subordinate to other empire-level factions. We did not send a letter of surrender either. In the end, there are 11 empire-level lord factions of the people of foreign races. They also participated in the operation to stop the humans from retreating to the primordial world, but we listened to your Majesty's orders and did not send a letter of surrender to them. Zhou Zhou acknowledged. Your Majesty, Bai Yun hesitated for a moment and said, these people of foreign races know that we are powerful. If we directly issue a surrender letter like this, will it cause those people of foreign races to ally? If it's just the kingdom-level people of foreign races forming an alliance, we're naturally not afraid. However, I'm afraid that these kingdom-level people of foreign races will know that even if they ally, they won't be able to defeat our Blazing Sun Kingdom. Then, they will choose to ally with those empire-level lords. What should we do? With the Supreme Agreement, they won't be able to form an alliance. If they want to form an alliance, so be it. I'd like to see if they dare to take the initiative to attack us without us provoking them. Zhou Zhou smiled. His tone was filled with anticipation. Divine Kingdom Lord factions and Empire-level Lord factions could not attack the Kingdom-level Lord factions of the myriad races. Unless this Kingdom-level Lord faction took the initiative to provoke the Empire-level Lord faction and the Divine Kingdom Lord faction, these 2 higher-level Lord factions could battle back freely. I understand. Bai Yun nodded. At the same time, as the Blazing Sun Kingdom's letter of surrender was sent to the 161 people of foreign races, these 161 people of foreign races were also astonished and furious. They had naturally witnessed the strength of the Blazing Sun Kingdom when they were stopping the humans from retreating to the primordial world. Their feelings could be described in one sentence. They could not fight them head-on. More than 100 kingdom-level lord factions and 11 kingdom-level lord factions joined forces to launch an attack on the Blazing Sun Kingdom. In the end, not only did they fail to break through the enemy's blockade, but they also lost more than 100 billion soldiers and nearly 100 deities, causing the vitality of nearly 200 people of foreign races to be greatly damaged. To be honest, they were dumbfounded when they heard about the specific battle losses. Was this something that an intermediate kingdom lord could do? Those who did not know better would ponder that they were fighting against an extraordinary empire-level lord faction together. What was an extraordinary empire-level lord faction? It referred to those empire factions that had already reached the level of an almost divine kingdom lord on the surface but were unable to advance to the divine kingdom lord level for various reasons. This was what they felt when they faced the attacks of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. This was timely. The operation to stop the humans from retreating to the primordial world did not succeed. What should they do now that they were about to be assaulted by the other party? Chapter 983 Advancement to an Advanced Kingdom. The Ghost Darkness Kingdom was an Advanced Kingdom Lord faction created by a low-tier deity-level intermediate-grade god spirit of the Yin Ghost clan. They were born with the body of ghost spirits and were good at the Tao of Souls. Most of their attacks were impossible to guard against, so they were also feared by the surrounding countries. At this moment, in the palace hall of the king of the Yin Ghost clan, a group of ministers were listening to a king's personal attendant in front of the hall. Their expressions were gloomy and uncertain. After the king's attendant finished speaking, a minister immediately stood up and said angrily, "This blazing sun kingdom is actually so arrogant. Previously, they brought people to stop us from attacking the human race and destroyed our operations. We can forget about that, but now they even dare to send us a letter of surrender. Don't they know that our Yin Ghost clan has a Yin Ghost empire?" Exactly. This king of the blazing sun is simply courting death. The other ministers also cursed indignantly. At this moment, another minister of the Ghost Darkness Kingdom said faintly, "We don't have much to do with the Yin Ghost Kingdom even though our Ghost Darkness Kingdom is indeed from the Yin Ghost race. We even have some conflicts. The other party might also know this, which is why they dare to send us a surrender letter." The ministers fell silent as soon as he said this. Even though their Ghost Darkness Kingdom and the Dark Ghost Kingdom were both from the Ghost Yin clan, their races were different. However, as the saying went, even a family would have conflicts, let alone an internal race. Coincidentally, they did have a conflict with the Yin Ghost Empire. That was because the Yin Ghost Empire had always wanted to annex the Ghost Darkness Kingdom, but the Ghost Darkness Kingdom was unwilling. After several open and covert battles, although there was no war between the two sides due to the persuasion of the clan, their relationship had actually fallen to a freezing point. Even though both sides had participated in the previous attack on the human race, they had never cooperated. They had completely done their own things. Now that the enemy had already attacked, how could the Ghost Darkness Kingdom have the face to ask the Yin Ghost Empire for help? Moreover, it was already too late to ask for help. Due to the Supreme Agreement, even if the Ghost Darkness Kingdom was destroyed by the Blazing Sun Kingdom, the Yin Ghost Empire would not be able to help the Ghost Darkness Kingdom. Unless the two countries had an alliance agreement or a subordinate agreement to protect each other before the Blazing Sun Kingdom issued the surrender letter, the Yin Ghost Empire could do nothing else in the face of the current situation of the Ghost Darkness Kingdom. At this moment, the king of the Ghost Darkness Kingdom, Drake, who was sitting on the throne in the hall, spoke. "After knowing the contents of this letter of surrender, I immediately sent Ares to investigate the situation of the other people of foreign races who attacked the human race together. In the end, we discovered that more than half of the people of foreign races who attacked the human race with us had already been persuaded to surrender by the common people's regal of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Furthermore, the content had not been changed at all. Most importantly, common people's regal seems to know that the Empire-level Lord faction and the Kingdom-level Lord faction that is related to the Empire-level Lord faction are not to be trifled with. Therefore, they did not send a surrender letter to them. They only sent this letter to the Kingdom-level Lord factions like us who do not have the protection of the Empire-level Lord faction. The common people's regal wasn't blinded by his power. He is still the extremely cautious but expansive common people's regal. In the face of such a powerful but cautious opponent, ministers, do you have any good suggestions?" Towards the end, he looked at the adults with a hopeful look in his eyes. He was just an ordinary low-tier deity-level intermediate-grade god spirit. Even though they had some connections with god spirits, they were only an ordinary faction that could be easily destroyed by the current Blazing Sun Kingdom. Therefore, in the face of such a helpless situation, he could only pin his hopes on these ministers to think of a good solution for him. At this moment, when His Highness ministers heard His Majesty's words, their expressions immediately became hesitant. "Isn't this bullying the ghosts?" A minister of the Ghost Darkness Kingdom couldn't help but mutter after hearing Drake's words. The ministers said nothing. "Aren't they bullying you? Who asked you to be weak and have no protector? Let's ask for help." Well, form an alliance with the other kingdoms that have been issued with letters of surrender. In addition, well, join forces with some people of foreign races and some small factions around the Blazing Sun Kingdom to form a large alliance that will prevent the Blazing Sun Kingdom from acting rashly. Those people of foreign races and small factions' territories are located around the Blazing Sun Kingdom's territories. In the future, as long as the Blazing Sun Kingdom expands, it will definitely destroy their territories. If we say that its pros and cons, they will definitely not be indifferent. A minister in charge of logistics in the Ghost Darkness Kingdom hesitated for a moment before speaking. Anyone can think of that. As soon as he said this, another minister wearing a general's uniform shook his head and said, "The problem is that the Blazing Sun Kingdom is too powerful. Even if we unite all the forces we can we really stop the Blazing Sun Kingdom's attack?" The ministers were silent. He was right. Back then, even with the help of a large group of Empire-level lords, they could not break through the army of the Blazing Sun Kingdom and stop the humans from retreating to the primordial world. Now, even if a group of kingdom-level lords joined forces, what could they do to the Blazing Sun Kingdom? When they thought of this, they felt a little suffocated. It was just an intermediate kingdom. How could it be so strong? The Blazing Sun Kingdom's forces are not something we can deal with. Why don't we surrender? At least we can reduce the casualties of our Ghost Darkness Kingdom. As long as the citizens of the Een Ghost are still around, there will be hope for everything in the future. Furthermore, I heard that the common people's regal has the heart to tolerate all races. The Blazing Sun Kingdom under him also treats those who surrender very well. In fact, it's not inferior to his own countrymen. If we surrender, the treatment we receive from him won't be much worse than now. It might even be better. Another minister of the Ghost Darkness Kingdom, who was in charge of the official's position, suddenly stood up after a long while. He gritted his teeth and mustered his courage. Originally, after he said this, he would receive a lot of criticism. However, after he finished speaking, he realized that the entire hall had fallen silent. Most of the ministers, including King Drake, were tempted. Only a few of them looked hesitant. The official was stunned for a moment before his expression became strange. Just as the Ghost Darkness Kingdom was hesitating because of the letter of surrender, the other kingdoms that had been issued with the letter of surrender were experiencing the same thing and had begun to save themselves. Some seek alliances outside, some spent all the country's wealth to hire foreign god spirit-level experts to protect the kingdom. Some sought help from Empire-level forces, some simply admitted that they were no match for him and directly agreed to the Blazing Sun Kingdom's letter of surrender, choosing to join the Blazing Sun Kingdom. There were even some people of foreign races who chose to side with the Scarlet faction and seek their protection. The various methods were too much for the eyes to take in. As for the Empire-level Lord factions and Kingdom-level Lord factions that were related to the Empire-level Lord factions, they were both glad and apprehensive after learning of this situation. Fortunately, the common people's regal didn't choose to attack them. Even though they were an Empire-level Lord faction, some of them even had some top-notch true god-tier means. They were not something that the current Zhou could easily deal with. However, once such a method was used, they would have to pay a huge price. Some of the costs might even directly cause their empire's vitality to be greatly damaged or even in danger of destruction. That was why they did not want to use their trump card easily until the last moment. What they were worried about was that common people's regal was growing too quickly. If he continued to grow like this, it would probably be their turn soon in the current situation. What should they do then? We have to think of a way to deal with the common people's regal. At the very least, we have to scare the common people's regal so that they won't dare to attack us. Otherwise, we definitely won't be safe in the future. When the Empire-level lords thought of this, they immediately began to think of a way. At this moment, a piece of news suddenly came from the Blazing Sun Kingdom and quickly reached them. The Blazing Sun Kingdom had advanced to an advanced kingdom. Time went back to more than an hour ago. In the Divine Kingdom's main hall, Zhou, who was feeding the Wind God Source embryo with true God-tier elementary-grade divine crystals, suddenly saw spatial fluctuations appear in the space in front of him. Following that, a black spatial ring flew out and floated in front of Zhou Zhou. Zhou Zhou was already prepared. He held it in his hand and sent his divine sense into it. Then, he smiled. Inside were 3 epic-tier advanced-grade kingdom tokens that emitted a faint scarlet fog aura. I can finally upgrade my kingdom. Zhou Zhou stood up and casually threw 3 divine god-tier basic-level sacred crystals at the Wind God Source embryo's surface. After saying, "Eat slowly," he teleported away. The next second, he appeared in front of the golden tablet in the deepest part of the divine kingdom. He looked at the kingdom's golden tablet in front of him. Soon, a text notification appeared. Prompt: You have met all the requirements to advance to an advanced kingdom. Do you want to advance the Blazing Sun Kingdom to an advanced kingdom? Yes. Zhou Zhou said without hesitation. As soon as he finished speaking, another line of text appeared. Prompt: You have one chance to change the location of the king's city. Do you want to change/retain it? Retain. Naturally, Zhou Zhou would not easily change his position in the capital. The current Searing Flame Empire was the only high-tier deity-level territory in the entire Blazing Sun Kingdom and even the entire human territory. Zhou Zhou would be a fool to exchange for such a treasure land. Prompt: Your choice has been confirmed. Prompt: Your lord's territory, Intermediate Kingdom, Blazing Sun Kingdom is in the process of upgrading. Prompt: Level up successful. Congratulations, your Intermediate Kingdom Lord territory, Blazing Sun Kingdom has officially been promoted to Advanced Kingdom Lord territory, Blazing Sun Kingdom. Prompt: You can display the level of your kingdom and territory on any channel. The next second, the announcement that Zhou Zhou had been waiting for appeared. Lord of all races Lord announcement. Congratulations to the human race, the sovereign of the Searing Flame for successfully establishing the first advanced kingdom. Rewards: Lord of all races mythical tier treasure chest +1, mid-level kingdom empire treasure chest +1, status ranking +10. Legendary status ranking +1. Lord of all races announcement. Congratulations to the human race, Lord of the Blazing Sun, Lord of all races announcement. Congratulations to the human race, Lord of the Blazing Sun. Chapter 984 Forbidden Archmage Statue. Race Divine Artifact, Incomplete Spear of Longinus. Indeed, the first Lord to advance to the Lord's territory of the Advanced Kingdom will also trigger a full channel announcement of the Lord of all races like before. Zhou Zhou nodded in satisfaction. At the same time, he began to think. He now had a huge advantage in the level of the Lord's territory. He had to maintain this advantage in the future and fight for the rewards of this announcement to belong to him in the future. One step faster and every step would be faster. Zhou Zhou had already experienced the huge benefits, so he naturally wouldn't give such benefits to other races. Then, he first looked at the mythical tier treasure chest, opened it and saw a miniature statue quietly placed inside. This miniature statue was a humanoid statue. He was a handsome male human who looked like a young man. He wore a 4-colored elemental robe and held a 4-colored book in his hand. His dark golden eyes seemed to contain the magical wisdom of all things in the world. Even though he was only a statue, he was still emitting intense magical fluctuations. Zhou Zhou looked at it and a text notification appeared. Building name: Forbidden Archmage Sculpture, Construction Level, True God Tier Elementary Grade, Construction, Change to Forbidden Mage, Spend 100 Black Iron Tier/Green Bronze Tier/White Silver Tier. Legendary Tier Mist Core. You can receive the teachings of the Forbidden Archmage, Su Yuan. Profession change of a human kingdom level spellcaster to an empire level spellcaster, Forbidden Mage. Building description: Peace, only within the range of Forbidden Spell, Forbidden Archmage, Su Yuan. Do you want to place it? A statue that can be changed to an empire-level spellcasting profession. Zhou Zhou's eyes lit up when he saw the statue's information. This treasure came at the right time. The tens of billions of violent storm spirits under him were all kingdom-level spellcasting professions. In other words, they could use this forbidden Archmage statue to change their profession to an empire-level spellcasting profession, Forbidden Mage. As for the mist core that he had spent on his class advancement, it was nothing to Zhou Zhou, who had obtained hundreds of millions of legendary tier mist cores in one war. He was still worried that he had nowhere to spend so many mist cores. As for this forbidden Archmage, Su Yuan, he seemed to be a human too. However, after some thought, Zhou Zhou realized that he had never heard of this person's name. Could it be that the other party was not a higher-up of the human race but a lone expert of the human race, or a true god tier of the human race in the myriad worlds? Zhou Zhou stroked his chin and thought. However, he quickly stopped thinking about it because it didn't matter who Su Yuan was. It was fine as long as this statue could change classes normally. As long as this forbidden mage is indeed powerful. I'll use one night to change all my violent storm spirits to forbidden mages. Zhou Zhou thought. Then, he came to a wide open space beside the shelter of the goddess of life. He took out the forbidden Archmage statue and silently placed it there. The next second, the statue of the forbidden Archmage left his right hand and flew into the air. Then, it began to rapidly enlarge, and in the blink of an eye, it became a huge statue about 100,000 meters tall. Such a huge statue was rare even in the entire Blazing Sun Kingdom. Hence, the moment it appeared, it attracted the attention of many subjects. Could there have been an accident? Some subjects could not help but think. Thanks to the war education of the Blazing Sun Kingdom, even though there had never been an internal war in the entire Blazing Sun Kingdom, the subjects' vigilance did not decrease at all. However, when these subjects saw Zhou Zhou standing in front of the forbidden Archmage statue, they immediately felt relieved. So it was the Lord's work. That was not strange. The subjects did not dare to get too close to disturb their lord. They all watched from afar in an extremely cultured manner, afraid that they would affect Zhou Zhou's thoughts. At the same time, Zhou Zhou also clicked his tongue in wonder as he looked at this huge and majestic class advancement statue. As expected of a treasure left behind by a true god tier. Just in terms of size, it was enough to crush the kingdom-level profession change statues that he had seen in human territory. Then, he called over a patrolling guard and asked him to call over a legendary tier Violent Storm Spirit and a Black Iron tier Violent Storm Spirit from the Homeland Defense Legion. Soon, the two of them came over. "Greetings, Your Majesty." When the two of them arrived, they immediately greeted Zhou Zhou respectfully. The two of them were a man and a woman. Thanks to their lord talent, their own aptitude, and the enhancement of the kingdom's profession, one of them was handsome and the other was beautiful. They were both extraordinary. Of course, in front of Zhou Zhou, the king who had transcended the heavens, he was naturally incomparable. I'll be frank. There's an opportunity here that can allow you to upgrade your kingdom-level spellcasting profession, the Violent Storm Spirit, to an empire-level spellcasting profession, Forbidden Mage. Are you willing? Zhou Zhou asked with a smile. The two of them were stunned. Then, they immediately said excitedly, "Yes. I'm willing." Kingdom-level spellcasting professions and empire-level spellcasting professions not only represented the difference in combat strength, but also the difference in potential. If becoming a kingdom-level combat professional had a chance of advancing to legendary expert in the future, then becoming an empire-level combat professional would have a chance of advancing to god spirit in the future. Even a low-tier deity-level elementary grade god spirit was a level that countless humans dreamed of but could never attain. Only a fool would refuse. Sure. Zhou Zhou nodded when he heard that. Then, he pointed at the towering forbidden Archmage statue and said solemnly, "Go in front of that forbidden Archmage. You have to be truly respectful from inside out." Then, tell me your requirements for advancing to a forbidden archmage. As for the cost of the job change, I will pay for it. Yes, your majesty. The two of them suppressed their excitement and said respectfully. Then, they quickly arrived in front of the statue of the forbidden archmage, Su Yuan. They looked at this towering and incomparably dignified statue with enthused expressions. How could they not be excited when the opportunity to soar to the heavens was right in front of them? Don't be anxious. Let your heart calm down first before carrying out the forbidden mage class advancement ritual. Zhou Zhou's voice sounded. From a kingdom-level spellcasting profession to an empire-level spellcasting profession, the process was not something that could be completed just by thinking about, I want to change my profession to a forbidden mage. Profession memory inheritance, constitution modification, willpower tempering, and other things were all indispensable torture processes. Once these two people's mental states were unstable and they could not survive these processes, they would not be able to successfully receive the complete inheritance of the forbidden mage. That would mean that they had failed their job advancement. Zhou Zhou did not want to see that scene. Yes, your majesty. The two of them were shocked and immediately forced themselves to calm down. After they were ready, they began to tell the statue of the forbidden archmage about their request to change their profession to a forbidden mage. 10 seconds later. The forbidden codex in the hand of the forbidden archmage statue suddenly emitted a four-colored light. Then, the four-colored light transformed into two four-colored pillars of light that descended from the sky and enveloped the two of them, completely enveloping them in the pillar of light. The transfer of inheritance has begun. Zhou Zhou pondered to himself when he witnessed this scene. He did not leave, but he did not wait either. Instead, while the two of them were receiving the profession inheritance, he took out the advanced kingdom treasure chest that was rewarded by the announcement and chose to open it directly. A broken blood-red steel fork was lying quietly in the advanced kingdom treasure chest. This steel fork should originally have had 3 parts. Now only the front section of the steel fork was left, which was the most lethal part of the fork. Zhou Zhou was stunned when he witnessed the blood-red steel fork because it was actually another racial divine artifact. So, these kingdom treasure chests are all rewards of race divine artifacts. Zhou Zhou thought. The intermediate kingdom treasure chest he had obtained previously was the Holy Record, a divine artifact of the human race on Cerulean planet. It was still in effect in the divine kingdom. The beginner treasure chest he had obtained from the newly established kingdom was the sword of Xian Yuan, the Sun-Moon-Star sword. Zhou Zhou had reason to suspect that in the future, the kingdom treasure chest would also reward divine artifacts from other races. If that was the case, it could be considered a channel that could steadily harvest race divine artifacts. At present, the premise was that he could always maintain the lead. He didn't guess for long as his gaze landed on the blood-red steel fork again. A divine artifact notification appeared. Race divine artifact name, incomplete spear of Longinus, equipment grade, unique in the race divine artifact ability 1, infinite piercing spear, the spear of Longinus can pierce through any matter and life without any damage. Race divine artifact ability 2, god-slaying bloodstained spear, unknown. To activate this race's divine artifact ability, you need to collect and integrate the middle-end steel fork of the Spear of Longinus. Race divine artifact ability 3, Spear of Longinus, unknown. To activate this race's divine artifact ability, you need to collect and integrate the steel fork at the end of the Spear of Longinus. Introduction to Race Divine Artifact, Spear of Longinus, the divine artifact of the human race on Cerulean planet. It is also the god-slaying spear of a mortal. Even a high and mighty god spirit can be stabbed or even assassinated by a mortal with the spear of Longinus. It's another incomplete race divine artifact like the sword of Xian Yuan. I need to collect all of them in order to fully unleash the effect of he. Zhou Zhou shook his head. His sword of Xian Yuan had yet to be gathered. He did not expect an incomplete race divine artifact to appear in the blink of an eye. Where could he find it? Could it be that he had to use the Bodhi Supreme when he encountered a problem? In that case, no matter how many times the Bodhi Supreme was used, it would not be enough. Zhou Zhou pondered for a moment and decided not to use the Bodhi Supreme to search for the other two parts of the Spear of Longinus for the time being. He was not lacking in a race divine artifact now. He just had to take it slow. As long as it was not damaged or permanently lost, he would find it sooner or later as his strength gradually increased. He gazed at this racial divine artifact. This Spear of Longinus was very different from the Sword of Xian Yuan. The Sword of Xian Yuan was currently a pure racial divine artifact that assisted the growth of territories and subjects. As for the Spear of Longinus, judging from the effects of the divine artifacts of he and the other races, it seemed to be a special attack-type divine artifact. The first effect is, infinite piercing spear. Perhaps it will come in handy in the future. Zhou Zhou was a little uncertain. Then, he temporarily placed it in his king's treasure box and would take it out to use in the future when he had the chance. Chapter 985 Excited Lords of the Cerulean Planet. Zhou Zhou looked at the remaining rewards. In addition to the mythical treasure chest and the advanced kingdom treasure chest, there were also 10 reputation rating and 1 mythical reputation rating rewards for the Lord of all races. To the current Zhou Zhou, the reputation rating reward was naturally nothing. On the other hand, Zhou Zhou was looking forward to the mythical reputation rating reward. Guiqiao, Qi Xiantian, or the Yuan Song of the Shepherd God race, as talents of the mythical reputation rating, had all become the top powerhouses in his territory. They were the pillars of his territory and had made great contributions to the development of his territory. His strength had never fallen behind even with the rapid development of his territory. Zhou Zhou was looking forward to it. What kind of talent would his next mythical reputation rating talent be? What kind of abilities would he have? Next was Zhou Zhou's favorite part. He opened the Cerulean Planet's Human World channel. The lords of the Cerulean Planet were all congratulating Zhou Zhou on his promotion to an advanced kingdom. Long live His Majesty! Screaming at the top of his lungs, awesome! His Majesty is indeed the face of the human race on the Cerulean Planet. He's once again ahead of the lords of all races. What do you mean by the face of the human race on the Cerulean Planet? It's the face of the human race in the myriad worlds. That's right. Most of the humans have already retreated to the primordial world and are guarding the powerful branch of the human race in the high continent. Only His Majesty is left. What does this mean? This means that His Majesty is already the de facto master of the human race in the high continent. Ha ha ha, the lords of all races and the civilization behind them have always been afraid of His Majesty. Now that His Majesty has been promoted to an advanced kingdom, I wonder what their expressions will be when they find out about this. Even though it's indeed the time to be happy, I'm actually even more worried now. I don't know how rich the foundation of those civilizations is. Now that they know that His Majesty has become the master of the advanced kingdom, they will definitely be even more determined to destroy His Majesty. I don't know what methods they will use in the future. Your Majesty, you have to be careful. According to His Majesty's previous words, as long as we are in the highest continent, we will be safe. Before leaving the high continent, we don't have to worry about these things for the time being. As for after leaving the high continent, His Majesty will definitely think of a new solution at that time. I thought that His Majesty was already considered invincible among the lords of all races and should be able to play with the Lord of all races at will. I didn't expect that he would still be restricted by the civilization behind the lords of all races. Haven't we already discussed this? In the early stages of the Lord of all races competition, the lords of all races will still stand on the same level. However, in the middle and later stages of the Lord of all races competition, there will definitely be a contest between the races of all races. This is inevitable. If the weak races wanted to prevent their race from falling into a disadvantage in the middle and late stages, they could only develop well in the early stages. Otherwise, they could unite with other weak races and fight against those civilizations. His Majesty had already done his best. Zhou Zhou looked at the lords of all races who spoke and smiled. These lords of the cerulean planet finally had some intentions of returning to their hometowns. This way, when he integrates all the lords of cerulean planet in the future, he shouldn't encounter too many obstacles. As for their worries about the future, Zhou Zhou was actually not very worried. It was nothing more than how to face the situation after leaving the high continent. The methods of the gods were more or less unusable in the high continent after all. However, after leaving the high continent, the gods could use whatever methods they wanted without breaking the supreme agreement. At that time, the cruelty of the war might directly increase by 10 times, or even 100 times, 1,000 times, or even 10,000 times. However, Zhou Zhou was not too worried. This was because he already had a rough idea of how to safely lead his troops out of the high continent in the future and head to the myriad worlds to fight a war. At that time, with my own methods, I should be able to develop steadily for a period of time in the war of 10,000 worlds. Then, he casually threw 10 billion copies of Violent Storm Spirit Class Change Certificate and 10 billion Yellow Gold Tier God Attendant Class Attendant Certificate to the marketplace, causing the Lord of the Cerulean Planet to be excited. Then, he gazed at the text notification. Advance Kingdom Hint 1. After your kingdom is upgraded to an advanced kingdom, your reputation will spread throughout a wider area. More life forms will gradually know of your kingdom's existence. Please be prepared to handle the subsequent kingdom affairs. Advanced Kingdom Hint 2, your kingdom channel has officially advanced to the Advanced Kingdom channel. It can accommodate up to 20 billion subjects. Advanced Kingdom Hint 3, your affiliated kingdom function has been strengthened. You can recruit up to 50 beginner kingdom lords and 10 intermediate kingdoms to become your affiliated kingdom. Affiliated kingdoms are not allowed to attack the main kingdom. They have to accept the orders of the main kingdom and advance and retreat with the main kingdom. The main kingdom has to support the progression of the subsidiary kingdom within its capabilities and protect the affiliated kingdom from external enemies. There is a parent-child spatial teleportation array between the main kingdom and the affiliated kingdom. It can be used for free regardless of distance. The main kingdom has the right to unilaterally close the parent-child spatial teleportation array. Zhou Zhou could not help but smack his lips after reading this information. It was still not enough for him even though this leveling up was not bad. The upper limit of 20 billion subjects wasn't enough to satisfy the needs of him, a super kingdom with more than 30 billion subjects. From the original upper limit of 10 beginner kingdoms, the affiliated kingdoms had increased to the upper limit of 50 beginner kingdoms and 10 intermediate kingdoms. This was not bad. At this moment, he suddenly realized that many applications had suddenly appeared in the information column of his affiliated kingdom. They were all applications to join his affiliated kingdom. At the same time, these lords also sent a message to him, requesting that they wish to become his affiliated kingdom. Among these lords were the Almighty Beast Lord, Grey Wing Lord, Lion Lord, Black Beast Lord, Blood Demon Lord, Red Feather Lord. Zhou Zhou was very familiar with them because they had all auction kingdom tokens from him. Good God! I just unlocked the affiliated kingdom quota, and these guys rushed up one by one. Zhou Zhou smiled and counted the number of applications. 58. Some time ago, he had sold 58 beginner kingdom tokens, creating 58 new beginner kingdoms for the human race on Cerulean planet. None of these new kingdoms of the Cerulean planet's human race wanted to develop independently after all. All of them wanted to become the affiliated kingdom of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Zhou Zhou stroked his chin and found it interesting. Lords who could bid for the kingdom token were all very ambitious people. There could only be one reason for them to give up their ambitions and choose to become an affiliated kingdom, and that was the greater benefits it could provide to them. Chapter 986 Allocation of Spots. Requirements to advance to a basic empire. Actually, if it were me, I would probably choose the same thing. I, the common people's regal, am way ahead of my fellow lords after all. I don't even see any hope of surpassing them. If this continues, those who can't become the lord of all races will either become cannon fodder or vassals in the lord of all races contest. They definitely won't be willing to be cannon fodder. This way, the only choice left for them is to become vassals. As for how to become a vassal, whose vassal, and what benefits there are after becoming a vassal. The answer is naturally to become my vassal, which is most in line with their interests. However, I only have 40 empty slots for the basic kingdoms. You'll have to compete for the job. Zhou Zhou was not too interested in such matters. He sent someone to call Zheng Yuanqi over. After the two of them returned to the Divine Kingdom's main hall, Zhou Zhou discussed the solution to this matter with him. In the end, the two of them decided to determine the priority according to the potential of these kingdoms and their contributions to the Blazing Sun Kingdom. The higher the potential, the more the Lord of Cerulean Planet would contribute to the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Naturally, the higher the priority, and the higher the chance of becoming his affiliated kingdom. Conversely, the priority would be lower. If they still wanted to become his affiliated kingdom, they would have to line up obediently. Only when there were new affiliated kingdom slots would it be their turn. Zheng Yuanqi had no objections. Zhou Zhou then talked about the fact that the Advanced Kingdom channel could not accommodate all subjects for the time being. Regarding this matter, Zheng Yuanqi had already prepared a script. He said, I plan to temporarily split the slots to enter the Advanced Kingdom channel into two categories. The first category is for senior officials and senior talents. All high-level officials of the Blazing Sun Kingdom, as well as professionals above the Extraordinary Tier and Extraordinary Tier, are qualified to enter the Advanced Kingdom channel. The second category is the eligibility of family members to enter. The subjects of our Blazing Sun Kingdom can use families as a unit. Each family has the qualifications to enter an Advanced Kingdom channel. Apart from that, I'm going to set up some rules for the slots. They'll strive to make sure that the slots for the 20 billion Advanced Kingdom channels can be fulfilled so that these slots can play their role. Sure. Zhou Zhou nodded. Zheng Yuanqi's suggestions took into account the basic subjects, middle subjects, and high-level subjects of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. They were very suitable for the Blazing Sun Kingdom. There's also the celebration of our Blazing Sun Kingdom's promotion to an Advanced Kingdom. I'll leave this to you, Prime Minister. Zhou Zhou smiled. I will definitely do it well now. I won't disappoint your Majesty. Zheng Yuanqi said solemnly. Zhou Zhou nodded. Then, the two of them chatted for a while about the future development of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. After chatting for more than an hour, Zheng Yuanqi left full of fighting spirit. After he left, Zhou Zhou was yet thinking about the future development direction of the kingdom as he opened the Lord Communication Group of the affiliated kingdom under the Kingdom Channel. The lords, he was familiar with coming over to congratulate him, as soon as he was online. Military Industry Lord, congratulations on your promotion to being the Lord of Advanced Kingdom, Your Majesty. Mystic Heaven Kingdom, Beginner, Mystic Heaven Lord, His Majesty is awesome as, silenced. Undead Kingdom, Beginner, Undead Lord, Your Majesty is awesome. Your Majesty, how did you advance to an Advanced Kingdom? It's so painful for me to advance to an intermediate kingdom now. Elemental gems are too difficult to collect. Dragon Blood Kingdom, Beginner, Dragon Lady Lord, +1. These life elemental gems and death elemental gems are too difficult to collect. During this period of time, I've followed His Majesty and fought many battles. I've obtained a lot of high-level elemental gems, but I yet can't gather the number of gems needed to upgrade my territory. This requirement is too ridiculous. Heavenly Commerce Kingdom, Beginner, Gold Merchant Lord, that's right. Other than war, I can also purchase some senior elemental gems and basic elemental gems from some small forces around the territory. But even so, I still can't collect enough high-level elemental gems. Magic Kingdom, beginner, Magic Lord, I have the worst luck. Not only do I need elemental gems to upgrade my territory, I also need elemental gems to cultivate and recover my magic power. I don't even know when I can upgrade to Advanced Kingdom like His Majesty. Paper Immortal Kingdom, beginner, Paper Immortal Lord, actually. I've read some common knowledge books published by local lords. According to common sense, a beginner kingdom needs at least hundreds or even thousands of years to gather enough requirements to upgrade the kingdom to an intermediate grade kingdom. Actually, our speed is already much faster than other lords' forces. There's no need to be too anxious. Undead Kingdom, beginner, Undead Lord, then why did His Majesty level up so quickly? As soon as these words were spoken, the rest of the people immediately rebuked him. Are you comparing yourself to His Majesty? Even the lords of all races who came from top bloodlines could not compare to His Majesty in this aspect. What right do you have to think that you can surpass His Majesty? After the Undead Lord saw this, he immediately stopped talking. When Zhou Zhou saw their conversation, he could not help but fall into deep thought. Zhou Zhou was naturally very clear about the difficulty of collecting the life and death elemental gems. It was already rather difficult for him to collect these elemental gems, let alone these lords of the affiliated kingdoms who were even inferior to him. However, he would not have to be troubled by these couple elemental gems when he upgrades the advanced Blazing Sun Kingdom to the beginner Blazing Sun Empire. At that time, he could sell the life elemental gems and death elemental gems he had collected to them. It could also be considered as strengthening his wings. Zhou Zhou swiftly made this decision. However, he didn't say it out loud now. It wouldn't be too late to discuss this matter after he upgraded the Blazing Sun Kingdom to the Blazing Sun Empire. Then, he opened the kingdom interface of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Kingdom name, Blazing Sun Kingdom, King, King of the Blazing Sun, Kingdom level, Advanced Kingdom, Kingdom flag, all stars cover the sun, Kingdom army, Blazing Sun army, Legendary tier, Monster army, Legendary tier, Dragon God army, Legendary tier, Heavenly Map army, Epic tier, Homeland Defense army, Yellow Gold tier, prerequisites to advance to a beginner empire. Territory level up to low tier deity level elementary grade, King City region level up to low tier deity level elementary grade, 1000 low tier deity level elementary grade divine crystals, conquer 3 advanced Crimson Kingdoms under the Crimson Overlord, 0/3, conquer couple advanced kingdoms that are not under the Crimson Overlord, 0/2, conquer any lower tier deity level elementary grade lord faction possess its low tier deity level elementary grade empire token, 0/1. Own 10,000 independent regional territories, own 100 race heroes, own 3 worshipped god spirit of your own race. After reading this promotion information, Zhou Zhou fell into deep thought. Apart from the fact that it's a little troublesome to upgrade the territory level to low tier deity level elementary grade, the other requirements don't seem difficult. He muttered to himself. Chapter 987 The 4 Levels of the Empire. Zhou Zhou was deep in thought. His kingdom was already a high-tier deity-level regional territory. It had already far exceeded the requirement of a lower-level regional territory. As for the other 1000 low-tier deity-level elementary grade divine crystals, 10,000 independent regional territories, 100 race heroes, and 3 deities of their race, he had already fulfilled these 4 requirements. In the end, only the territory level upgraded to low-tier deity level elementary grade, conquered 3 high-level Crimson Kingdoms under the Crimson Overlord, 2 advanced kingdoms that were not under the Crimson Overlord, and any one of the beginner empire's lord factions had its low-tier deity level elementary grade empire token. Putting the first one aside, he was still far from reaching this requirement. He needed to take it slow. As for the request to conquer the kingdom, it was naturally easy for the current he to accomplish it. There was almost no difficulty to speak of. The only thing that surprised he was the last request. Conquer any beginner empire's lord faction and possess its low-tier deity-level elementary grade empire token. When Zhou Zhou saw this request, he was very surprised. When it's time to advance to the beginner empire, do I have to forcefully conquer a beginner empire as an advanced kingdom to qualify for advancement? He muttered. This was something that had never happened before among the requirements for territory promotion and kingdom promotion. In the past, as long as he conquered a few lord factions of the same level as him and proved that he was outstanding enough among those of the same level, he could advance to a higher level lord faction. Now, he actually had to fight against a higher level lord faction to advance to a higher level. To an ordinary lord's faction, the difficulty had increased by more than a little. Beginner Empire Lord faction, Zhou Zhou pondered. With the strength of the Lord faction that he currently controlled, it was not impossible to go against an Empire-level Lord faction. For now, if the Empire-level Lord factions in the High Continent were not divided according to the Empire level, but according to the combat level, they could generally be divided into 4 levels. Tier 1 Empire, a beginner Empire Lord faction with high-tier deity-level fight power. It can command one or even several high-tier deity-level god spirits to fight for its empire. Tier 2 Empire, an empire-level lord faction with some true god-tier techniques. For example, if he had a treasure that could release the power of a true god-tier elementary grade existence, or if he had a relationship with a true god-tier elementary grade existence, he could ask this true god-tier elementary grade existence to help his empire once, or if he had other true god-tier techniques. Usually, only intermediate or advanced empire lords would have such a foundation. The third level, an empire-level lord faction with the worship of a true god tier could command a true god tier to fight for their empire. Typically, only an empire-level lord faction like the Elven Empire that was infinitely close to a divine kingdom lord faction would hold such a faction. This kind of empire faction could already prepare to advance to a beginner divine kingdom lord faction. As for the 4th level, it was the Super Empire's Lord faction. The Super Empire's Lord faction was what was mentioned previously. Even though it was not a Divine Kingdom Lord faction, its combat strength was already comparable to some weak beginner Divine Kingdom Lord factions. Not only did he have more than 2 true god-tier worshipped god spirits, but he also had 1 or 2 master god-tier techniques. Zhou Zhou felt that even though his Blazing Sun Kingdom had just reached the level of an advanced kingdom, in terms of combat strength, it was already comparable to a 3rd-level empire. In other words, under the premise that he did not provoke level 3 empires and super empires, he could ensure his safety 100% by attacking level 1 empires and level 2 empires. He also had a huge guarantee of winning rate. This way, he could conquer a beginner empire and obtain its empire token while ensuring the safety of himself and the kingdom, thus completing the last necessity to advance to a beginner empire. In that case, it's crucial to choose the target to attack. Coincidentally, among the people of foreign races who stopped the humans from retreating to the primordial world, there are 11 people of foreign races who have yet to be dealt with. Let my intelligence organization find a suitable target from them. Zhou Zhou thought. In any case, he would fight anyone. Why not fight someone who had a grudge? At this moment, he suddenly sensed something and looked outside the Divine Kingdom passageway, where the forbidden Archmage statue was. Have you completed your class advancement? He muttered before his body suddenly vanished from the spot. In front of the forbidden Archmage statue, Zhao Xiaodao and Sun Yu, who had changed their violent storm spirit robes into forbidden mage robes, felt the forbidden mage inheritance in their minds and were pleasantly surprised and excited. I actually became an empire-level spellcasting profession, forbidden mage. Sun Yu said happily. She felt that everything she had experienced during this period of time was a little dreamy. She was originally just an ordinary girl from a tailor's family in the Blazing Sun Kingdom. The family was not poor, but it was definitely not rich. Even though he was a little good-looking, he was ordinary in other aspects. Originally, she contemplated that her future life would be to become a tailor who inherited her family's skills and find a handsome boy she liked to marry. Then, she would forget about her ordinary life. Unexpectedly, one day, her extraordinary teacher suddenly came looking for her. He uttered that during the magician constitution testing ceremony, he discovered that she had a good talent in wind magic. He said that he hoped to take her in as his disciple and inherit her mantle in the future. That teacher was an epic tier elemental archmage. Her family was extremely excited to be able to become a disciple of such a teacher. How could she reject him? Hence, she became the envied disciple of an archmage. Originally, she contemplated that her life had passed in the glory of a mage's life. Unexpectedly, 2 days later, her teacher suddenly said that she had obtained a recruitment spot for the Homeland Defense Army from her good friend. Her teacher asked her, her only student, to accept this spot so that she could become a soldier of the Homeland Defense Army. In the future, not only would she be able to change her profession to a kingdom-level spellcasting profession, Violent Storm Spirit, for free, but she would also be able to receive official resources from the Blazing Sun Kingdom to nurture her. This way, her path to becoming a high-level professional in the future would be smooth. In the future, she might even be able to surpass her teacher and become a legendary tier professional. Therefore, she joined the Homeland Defense Army in a daze and turned from an ordinary elemental mage to a noble kingdom-level spellcasting professional, Violent Storm Spirit. Just as she contemplated that she was going to spend the rest of her life in the future of the official iron rice bowl that everyone envied, she, who was patrolling with the captain in the capital, was suddenly called over by someone, saying that His Majesty had asked them to go over. In the face of His Majesty's orders, she and the captain naturally did not dare to disobey. They did not want to disobey either, so they followed excitedly. Then, she and the captain found out that His Majesty wanted to give them a chance to become Empire-level spellcaster professionals for free. He even asked if they were willing. Was there a need to ask? Of course he was willing. Therefore, before Sun Yu could familiarize herself with the profession skills of the Violent Storm Spirit, she directly went from a kingdom-level spellcasting professional to a noble Empire-level spellcasting professional. Am I going to become a god next? Sun Yu, who was still a black iron tier and had not even participated in the battle, could not help but be suspicious. Chapter 988 Powerful Forbidden Mage. Unlimited Firepower. At this moment, Zhao Xiaodao, who was at the side, was a legendary tier expert. Even though he was much more mature than Sun Yu and was not as excited as her, he was still extremely excited when he sensed the powerful Forbidden Mage inheritance. This Forbidden Mage can actually release forbidden spells at the Black Iron tier. At my legendary tier level, I can even release legendary tier forbidden spells that are comparable to weaker law skills. This Forbidden Mage is definitely a super profession 10 times stronger than the Violent Storm Spirit. Zhao Xiaodao thought to himself. Then, he looked at the tall Forbidden Archmage statue and had another bold idea. The Blazing Sun Kingdom now had tens of billions of Violent Storm Spirit professional soldiers. If these Violent Storm Spirit professional soldiers were all changed to Forbidden Mages, Zhao Xiaodao's body shuddered. If that was the case, even if their Blazing Sun Kingdom's combat strength did not increase by 10 times, it would not be a problem to increase it by 5 to 6 times. At this moment, Zhou Zhou suddenly teleported in front of them. "Greetings, Your Majesty." The two of them hurriedly said respectfully. "How do you feel?" Zhou Zhou looked at them and asked with a smile. "I feel," the two of them looked at each other and said in unison, "That's great." Zhou Zhou laughed and clicked on their attributes panel. Subject, Sun Yu, Territory, Blazing Sun Kingdom, Combat Profession Name, Forbidden Mage, Profession Class, Black Iron Tier Intermediate Grade, Ability Overview, a lucky, kind, and easily satisfied girl has unknowingly obtained a future that she doesn't even dare to think about. Skills, Talent, Wind Girl, Talent, Lux Blessing, Empire Level Professional Talent, Soul of Forbidden Curse, Empire-level professional talent, Elemental Spirit, Empire-level professional talent, Instant Magic, Empire-level professional talent, Interpretation of Forbidden Curse, Black Iron Tier Elementary Grade Magic, Summoning Violent Wind, Black Iron Tier Elementary Grade, Flame Spray, Black Iron Tier Elementary Grade Forbidden Spell Magic, Wind and Fire Blast into the Heavens. Loyalty, 95, Potential, Mid-Tier Deity Level Advanced Grade, Subject, Zhao Xiao Dao, Territory, Blazing Sun Kingdom, Combat Profession Name, Forbidden Mage, Profession Class, Legendary Tier Advanced Grade, Ability Overview, a veteran of the Blazing Sun Kingdom's army. At the same time, he is also a diligent and hardworking spellcaster professional. His personality is diligent and pragmatic. His hobby is to decipher the mysteries of spells. His dream is to become an earth elemental magic god spirit of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Skills, Empire-level professional talent, Soul of Forbidden Curse, Empire-level professional talent, Elemental Spirit, Empire-level professional talent, Forbidden Curse Expertise, Empire-level professional talent, Instant Magic, Empire-level professional talent, Magic Acumen, Black Iron Tier Elementary Grade Magic, Earthquake, Black Iron Tier Elementary Grade Forbidden Spell, Earthquake, Black Iron Tier Elementary Grade Magic, Summon Stone Man, Green Bronze Tier Elementary Grade Magic. Word of the Earth, Green Bronze Tier Elementary Grade Forbidden Magic, Summon Rock Giant, White Silver Tier Elementary Grade Magic, Petrification, White Silver Tier Elementary Grade Magic, Turning Stones into Gold, White Silver Tier Elementary Grade Forbidden Spell Magic, Black Stone Realm. Legendary Tier Elementary Grade Magic, Meteorites Falling from the Sky, Legendary Tier Elementary Grade Forbidden Spell, Sky Stars Exploding to the Ground, Loyalty, Fanatic Believer, Potential, Low Tier Deity Level Advanced Grade. Zhou nodded in satisfaction after reading their attributes. As expected of an Empire-level profession that was open from a mythical tier treasure chest. Not only did he master the casting ability of conventional magic, he had also started to cast a forbidden spell on the caster from the Black Iron tier. Moreover, every time he advanced by a large level, he would be given a new forbidden spell. From this point alone, this spellcasting profession was definitely one of the top Empire-level spellcasting professions among all the Empire-level spellcasting professionals. Moreover, forbidden spells represented the pinnacle of magic, as well as the essence of elemental laws. The more he studied forbidden spells, the deeper his research and understanding of elemental laws would be. This way, the difficulty of forbidden spell mages advancing to god spirits related to elemental laws would definitely be reduced by more than 20 to 30% compared to other professions. His combat ability is superior to his peers, and his capability is also astonishing. He can even increase the probability of becoming a god. A top-grade Empire-level spellcasting profession. Zhou sighed. Then, he chatted with the two of them for a while about how it felt to change professions and become a forbidden mage. After gaining a deeper understanding of the advantages and disadvantages of this profession, he let the two of them return to the team. He stood rooted to the ground in deep thought. Even though forbidden mages can release forbidden spells with powerful destructive power, can the magic power in their bodies only support them to use forbidden spells once in a battle? Equivalent to a disposable weapon? Zhou thought about it and shook his head. No. There is a way to solve this issue easily. That is to use potions to recover mana and mental strength. On the High Continent, there were many potions that could restore all the magic power and mental strength of a mage in one go. Mages were very frequent in the High Continent after all, second only to martial artists, rangers, and adventurers. The forbidden mage was actually a sub-profession of mages. The potions that mages could use to recover their magic power could naturally be used by forbidden mages as well. However, most of these potions were expensive and the ingredients needed to make them were scarce. Mages felt that using these potions was not cost-effective, so they rarely used them unless it was a critical moment. In front of the wealthy Zhou, these were naturally not a problem. Furthermore, he still had Linger's divine medicinal gardens. He could quickly cultivate all kinds of rare medicinal herbs. This way, it wouldn't be an issue to create the raw materials for these rare medicinal herbs. Zhou Zhou grinned when he thought that he could satisfy both of these conditions. In the eyes of the outside world, a forbidden mage is only an empire career equivalent to a disposable weapon. However, I can use my affluence to forcefully pile them into an unlimited firepower to use. He thought. Since that was the case, tonight, he would change all the tens of billions of violent storm spirit soldiers under him to forbidden mages. At that time, with his command, 10 billion forbidden mages would release forbidden spells at the same time. Even if there was not a single god spirit level forbidden archmage among these 10 billion forbidden mages, they could still easily kill a high-tier deity level. If Zhou Zhou ordered these tens of billions of forbidden mages to cleanse the territory of other races under the premise of providing an unlimited amount of magic recuperation and mental strength potions, it would probably take less than a day to completely turn the entire territory of a small race into a forbidden death zone that no longer had any life forms. Just as Zhou Zhou was fantasizing about the future of the forbidden mage soldier type, the sky above the blazing sun kingdom suddenly changed color. The clouds in the sky within a radius of 10 million miles turned sky blue, emitting powerful wind and spatial nomological power. Higher up in the starry sky, a divine kingdom star that had been sleeping for an unknown period of time suddenly woke up. Then, it emitted an extremely resplendent nomological light mixed with sky blue and bright silver, illuminating the myriad worlds. This familiar scene made Zhou Zhou immediately realize that an existence had advanced to become a true god tier. And this existence, Zhou Zhou suddenly turned to look in the direction of the divine kingdom passageway. Is it that wind god source embryo? Oh my god, a true god tier at birth? Zhou Zhou muttered, his face filled with joy. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.